Wait. Oh, okay. Governance and nation building. It's a very important conversation, and that's why we've gathered all of you here today. All of you present here are thought leaders in the industry, you're professionals in the industry, you are experts in the industry. We've gathered here to discuss a very delicate but important theme that will take us to the next level in our journalism. And that's why we have all of you here present today. My name is Elizabeth Musa. I'm a broadcast journalist and a professional compare, and I'm the video content lead at Business Day, which is West Africa's leading source of financial intelligence. And I'm very honored and privileged to be your moderator, one of your moderators for this event, alongside the beautiful Onyinyechi. So it's very delightful that I'm standing in your presence here to be your moderator. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being here very early. Please, a round of applause for yourself. Without taking any more of our time, I'd like you all to please stand up as we take the national anthem. We will Media, please. Thank you.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigeria, all our proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be our symbol, that's truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children of honor without stain. O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build our nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
God bless Nigeria. Without taking any more of our time, I'd like to welcome the Head of Communications here at Pan Atlantic University, Mrs. Temitope Falade, for a quick introduction. Please make up the work.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad to have you here in our midst today. And I must also thank you for being punctual to this event. It's really good when we see that people honor our invitation and come in quite early. So I'd just like to tell you a few things about Pan Atlantic University. Pan Atlantic University is an international university, and we have global recognition as well. In Pan Atlantic University, we are committed to building and forming people who are professionals in their different fields. So our mission is to form competent professionals and encourage them to serve with personal initiative and social responsibility the community in which they work, thereby helping to build a better society in Nigeria and Africa at large. And this is the objective that we try to achieve with events such as our Media Roundtable. In Pan Atlantic University, we have a number of schools. I'm sure some of you already know our schools. And our goal and our objective is really to offer a unique educational experience premised on educating in freedom and with freedom. We also ensure that we have excellent world-class teaching experience with research scholarship focused on influencing policy and practice, whilst we also aim to achieve excellence in all aspects of our mission and build a community of committed individuals and partners focused on achieving our mission. And so I'll also tell you a little bit about our history here at Pan Atlantic University. Everyone here must have heard about the Lagos Business School because they're even here right now. And so that's the first institution of Pan Atlantic University. It was established in 1991. And the university was approved as a university to run programs of different types, masters, undergraduates. Their floor was gotten in 2002. Then we were named Pan-African University. In 2003, our Enterprise for Development Center started, which is the arm that trains entrepreneurs. While in 2006, the CMC, a number of people in here have also been to what has metamorphosized into SMC, that was the Center for Media and Communication. And it became a school in 2008. In 2013, the university changed its name from Pan-African to Pan-Atlantic University. And in 2014, we began our undergraduate programs. So we started a few programs then, but now we have grown to increase in numbers. And we also have a museum of art. You need to visit our main campus at Beduleki to find out more about the museum. We have over 1,000 collection of different artworks from different artists that cut across different parts of the world. We also have a School of Science and Technology. So a few things for you to note why you are here today. Safety first. You have to consider your own safety and the safety of others that are here. So we'd like you to know that we have 2 exit doors, one at my right and the other at my left, should in case there's an emergency and then you need to leave. We also have a fire muster point. There are fire alarms all around. In case you notice a fire, there's a fire, you can raise an alarm. Or when you hear the alarm as well, please move to the muster point. You'll see that symbol to direct you to where the muster point is. Our facilities, there are quite a number of facilities in here. So there's a chapel for those who would like to use the chapel, Christians and Catholics. Then there's a Muslim prayer room. We have an automated teller machine, which is just outside by the door here. And there are other amenities, water dispensers, they're all strategically positioned around this campus. And so we welcome you once again, and we thank you for making it here today. Please, we would like to encourage you to make valuable contributions to our Media Roundtable. We'd like to have conversations that will help us to build a better society and also improve on our networking. Thank you all very much. You're welcome.
So we'll now be welcoming the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administrative, Dr. Peter Bankole, our Deputy Vice Chancellor here at Pan Atlantic University. As he comes up for the welcome address, please do so with a standing ovation because he deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, let me re-echo what Senator said by thanking each and every one of you for coming on time. At Pan Atlantic University, we take timing very, very seriously. And when I got here around 10:30, they told me this place was full. I was really happy because it's very important for us to demonstrate what we preach. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for that. Let me, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, the University Management Council, and indeed the deans of our various schools, welcome you to the second Media Roundtable. The first one was very interesting, and the flow out from that was insightful. But we believe that this second one will even be better. Apart from those of us that are here, I want to especially also thank those that are in the overflow, because this room could no longer take us. And there's another classroom that is connected here, and they are watching via Zoom. So I want to thank and recognize those of you that are there. At the last time when I visited there were close to 20 of them that were there, and I think it's still coming. So whether you are in print, radio, TV, or online, it is important for us to recognize you individually as business leaders, as thought leaders, because we have a very unique opportunity, and we sit at a crossroad where what you say, what you write matters a lot to national development. We have this opportunity individually and as a collective to shape the thoughts of and opinions of people that stay in Nigeria and beyond. And so when we write, when we say, whatever we do must be done with truth. Whatever we do, whatever we say must be transparent enough and defendable. Without sucking to whosoever we're writing about, if we speak the truth in good conscience, which is what we promote, then we can talk about issues and not about people. And then it will change the narrative of how we engage, whether it's with government, whether it's with organizations or civil service, civil society, and so on and so on. I think the central message, which I'm hoping that we'll be able to take out of here, is that let us speak together and speak in a way that will help a national discourse, but also nation building. We are not here to speak highly of anybody or anything, especially when it is not true. We can constructively engage, but not to blindly criticize. I don't know if you are getting the point. At the end of the day, we want a media space where people can really come and say, you know what, I can listen to this person because they've done their facts, they've checked it, and whatever they are saying is true. They can look at some people and say, if he says yes, that yes is yes. That is how we want to see every journalist, so that you can help us in our national building. I want to particularly thank some of our students here, both past, I believe, and some present that are here. Actually, they are past. Some of them just finished, some of them are about to finish. They're handling the cameras, they are here as MCs and things like that. That is the integration that we also want to have. We want to make sure that we are building competent people that will be able to change agents in our society. So I want to thank those students for that. And on behalf of all of us, I want to say welcome. I hope you will enjoy the environment which we are providing for you. But please let us engage well, because whatever comes out of this will be the starting of something more incredible in our society. Thank you very much and welcome.
The Director, Deputy, I beg your pardon, Vice Chancellor at Pan Atlantic University. Please put your hands together one more time for me. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. As my co-moderator introduced earlier, my name is Onyinyechi Aderibibe, and it is indeed my absolute pleasure to be here with you today. And like our Deputy Vice Chancellor has said, they love to integrate the students, both past and present, in the things that we do here. And passing through the School of Media and Communications very recently in Pan Atlantic University, I can vouch for the things he said in terms of the quality of work that we ought to churn out and the preparation for the real world as journalists and media personalities. Elizabeth as well is an alumni, so I'm sure I speak for her when we both say that, you know, everything you hear from our Deputy Vice Chancellor and our Communications Manager who spoke earlier is indeed true. And now, before we move on to the panel session, you can see our panelists are ready, and we plan to give ample time for engagement. We'd love for you to ask questions, interact, and hopefully have a very wholesome conversation today with actionable points that we can all go back to our various desks with. I would love to make way for a spoken word performance now by a student of ours. Her name is Moyosore Oluwachiamaka Adeni. Please put your hands together for her. She's coming forward to give us a lovely spoken word performance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here at Media Roundtable. Welcome everyone. Writing on the wings of truth, but it's a long way how to get here. I will begin my speech presentation. They say start every rhetoric with a question. But my question is, for all those paying attention, can we compromise the truth for peace? Should mediocrity and complacency be allowed because we don't want to raise eyebrows? This is a question we should all ask ourselves before turning the camera on, as regards the state of our nation. Before we put pen to paper, we will remember that if we sacrifice the truth for our comfort, we have become consorts to corruption we complain. As media moguls, we often undermine our position in the hierarchy of nation building. But the masses consume media like a smoker takes in lunch. And the product of our occupation is addiction for the 21st century digital drinker. So it's a fact that we are high up in intentional ladder. Our art is their voice. Our voice is the gramophone that amplifies their choice. And even so, in our pens and viewfinders, they find their views and end their perception of the government, of our culture, of our social political life. So it must be intentional. I learned in secondary school that the press is the intermediary between the people and their luminary, the armor of advocacy, watchdog, vigilante of democracy, CCTV of every situation that we are in or have been. So how loud do we scream when they're sitting in the danger? How often do we seal our lips to remain unbothered or change the ink to tickle some feather, only to whether it be NSAS, Civil War, or Occupy Nigeria? The media has always been a sustainer of hope for those who grope for light under a vision. For if the radios and cameras were off, and so would our vocal cords. But what's up? In the papers told lies, in the bill we pull over our eyes, and we will sleep in the bliss of ignorance, only for our giant to bend his knees to the sweet siren of anarchy. Let's never be said that a generation as empowered as ours failed our nation because the media didn't mind, and left independence, deaf, dumb, and blind. Assailant to the enlightenment of the mere man and accountability of the governance, because we were too scared to start authority, too timid to carry out our responsibility, so we let the plague spread, creating facades of peaceful living with our speaking and our writing and recording, whilst the locus of corruption eats deep, digs into this confluence, because both of us will be threatened to remain silent. My question remains, can we compromise the truth for this? And I'll answer like this: we cannot. Because as we all know, peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of equity and justice. So if we forsake our proper duty to maintain a thick, foggy, deceitful image of stability, then we have gotten it wrong. The voice of the voiceless, pillar of fire in the wilderness, will uphold its identity with honesty, with integrity, and with creativity, putting out positive narratives but not neglecting real tragedy. Because the last thing we want for the media to portray is sensitivity as optimism. Saying no to mediocrity in storytelling, but working tactfully for the benefit of all those who hope for our nation and ourselves. Deciding critically, deciding constructively, prioritizing the stability of our nation. It is only when we have done all these that we are guaranteed to have played our role in part of nation building. It is when we have embraced its importance and not sacrificed it upon the altar of convenience that the truth will finally set us free. Thank you.
Once again, Moyo Soro Luachiamaka Adeni, please let's put our hands together for how wonderful that is. For this point, I'm actually going to take my seat because we're going to jump right into the panel session and we'll be very briefly introducing our panelists, each of our panelists who are here today. I'm sure as you can imagine, if we go ahead to read their entire profiles or bios, we'll spend a couple of hours before we get into the conversation. So please permit me, SARS and MAS, to just pick up a few things. So just pick up a few things from your bios so that our audience is very well aware of who will be speaking with them today. I'll begin with the lady to my left, Mrs. Tolulope Adeleru Balogun. She's an award-winning multimedia journalist, a media consultant, and trainer with a career spanning almost 2 decades. She has made significant contributions to Nigerian media, particularly through her roles in radio and television. Currently, she serves as the head of programs for News Central, and she oversees programming, content, exclusives, special reports, and much more. Please, ladies and gentlemen, she's already seated, but please put your hands together.
Thank you. And next on our panel is Mr. Jonathan James Lamgon. He's a broadcaster who has enjoyed a career spanning the areas of programming, sales, public relations, and business consulting actively over the past 28 years. And during this period, Jonathan has worked and consulted for major media brands in television and radio to include Radio Nigeria, Hot FM, Cool FM, Nigeria Info, Wazobia FM, Peace FM, Vision FM, Urban 96 FM. The list is endless, trust me. It's a whole lot. And until recently, King James was the executive director of Group 8 Limited, the owners and operators of brands such as Sound City, Urban 96, Correct FM, amongst others. These days, Mr. Jonathan is traveling and spending time with his family to help with various broadcast projects and is leading a small team of broadcasters in his work as president and CEO of Bliss Broadcasting Limited. I'll end here. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Jonathan. Please put your phones on silence, please. Phones on silence, thank you.
Up next on our panel is Honorable Magnus Oyiwe. He's a renowned public policy analyst, democracy advocate, development strategist, and successful entrepreneur with nearly 35 years of invaluable experiences spanning both the public and private sectors in Nigeria. His impactful journey in public service includes 2 key roles in Delta State during Governor James Ibori's tenure from 2003 to 2007. Now, initially, he served as Commissioner for Information, offering vital insights and communication expertise. Later, he assumed the position of Commissioner for Special Duties, demonstrating his versatility and dedication to the state's progress. Of course, we have a lot more accomplishments in honor of the Honorable, but please let's welcome Honorable Magnus Oyiwe to
Our next panelist is Mr. Pisayo Shoyombo. Is a graduate of animal science from the University of Ibadan and is best remembered as the Nigerian journalist who, without committing an offense, spent 5 days in a police cell as a suspect and 8 as an inmate in Ikoyi prison, just to track corruption in Nigeria's criminal justice system, after which the authorities contemplated arresting him. Or the journalist is also referred as the journalist who drove the equivalent of the stolen vehicle from Abuja to Lagos, passing through a whopping 86 checkpoints in a journey of over 1,600 kilometers that lasted a cumulative 28 hours, 17 minutes. Before then, he had investigated the abandonment of soldiers injured in battle against Boko Haram, corruption in the handling of corpses at government-run mortuaries and cemeteries, theft of foodstuffs at Nema stores and IDP camps in Borno, the plunder of Ebola funds in Liberia, corruption by men of the Nigeria Customs Services at Apapa Port, the travels of cancer patients undergoing treatment at government-owned hospitals, the extortion of national ID cards seeking members at the public by NIMC officials, and way back in 2013, the brutality of ethnocentric killings in Plateau State. It's a whole lot. But now is the former managing editor of Sahara Reporters and the pioneer editor of The Cable. Mr. Shoyombo has also edited the International Center for Investigative Reporting. He is currently the founder of the Foundation for Investigative Journalism, an organization which is widely credited with reimagining journalism practice in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, a round of applause for Mr. Pisa.
Panelist who will be introducing this morning is Sheriff Quadri. Sheriff Quadri is a seasoned broadcast journalist at 99.3 Nigeria Info FM Lagos. With over a decade of excellent professional experience, Sheriff Quadri has worked in both the public and private sectors of the broadcast industry in Nigeria. They include Old FM Ilesha, Osun State, Premier FM Ibadan, Oyo State, Living Spring FM Osogbo, Osun State, and Midland FM Ilorin, Kwara State. These are some of the stations he has exhibited his craftsmanship at. Others include Radio Kwara, Full FM Port Harcourt, Hot FM Lagos, and Nigeria Info FM Port Harcourt and Lagos. Not only has his smooth delivery of the news endeared him to many of his ardent listeners, his deep and baritonic voice makes his delivery on radio a complete delight to listen to. He currently hosts segments of the breakfast show, the Daily Digest on the Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info FM, alongside Jimmy Yusuf. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the head of programs, Nigeria Info 99.3 FM, my boss, Mr. Sheriff Quadri. And of course, the second lady on our panel is Mrs. Margaret Agada Mba. She is a member of the faculty, Pan Atlantic University School of Media and Communication. Please put your hands together for her. Elizabeth, I believe that we can go straight to questioning. Absolutely. So our panelists are ready and itching to answer. All right.
I think I'll just start with the man on my right, Mr. Sheriff Quadri. I think the good place to start is asking you every day you're on radio, you're informing your audience, you're debunking misinformation and all of that. What is the role of a journalist right now in a democracy? And do you think that journalists have effectively carried out their roles?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Nice to meet everybody here. It's a pleasure. Let's start with the role of a journalist in the present democratic dispensation. So we can broaden this question to mean many things. Journalists can serve as a watchdog. Journalists can serve as an agent of change. Journalists can also play the role of intermediary between the leader and the led as well. In a democratic situation such as ours in Nigeria here, it's never easy for any journalist, and that is the truth. I have people here who have been in the field, and they can tell you that being a journalist in Nigeria, even when you want to do the right thing, there are agents, there are people who will frustrate your efforts. You know your ethics, you know your duty, you know your job, and you want to do your job as a journalist. You don't even have any ulterior motive whatsoever. You are just asking for someone to give you the chance to do your job. Take, for instance, you heard about a particular situation from the particular section of government, and you want to go after such story that you want to treat, and you reach out to the concerned individual. And what you're going to do, what you're going to encounter is they're going to stonewall you. They don't want to talk to you. They are not open to conversation. They are not open to transparency. They are not open to accountability. It makes the job of a journalist very difficult. Now, we also need to have it at the back of our mind that we have different sections of journalism. We have investigative journalism, Sarah can speak to that. We have development journalists who also can go after data and bring about some things that are missing, some things that need to be added, and all of that. Always put together. A journalist, if you're not determined, you will be frustrated in doing your job. So it takes a whole lot for a journalist to be able to do their job in Nigeria. And don't be mistaken, it's the same thing everywhere. It's just that Nigeria's own situation is so peculiar that the politicians feel that they don't have to be questioned. Appointed officials of government feel that most often they feel that they don't have to be questioned. When you go and approach them for questioning, they see you as the enemy. They see you as the one who doesn't want them to succeed, who doesn't want them to shine, as though that's what they're there for. So as a journalist, it takes a whole, it takes more than seeing yourself as a journalist. It takes extra commitment, dedication, in fact, above all, sacrifice. If a journalist is not willing to sacrifice anything, I really do not know how you're going to survive in a terrain such as ours. I mean, what comes to mind easily was an interview I did with God Rest His Soul of Adaname Lafia some years ago. It cost a whole lot of broadcasts. And the idea behind the interview was just to tell exactly the story of the violence, the barbarism going on in the north central part of the country, northwest, north central. And it wasn't easy. Even people from my own sector came after me. It was a difficult period. It was a difficult period. So being a journalist is not just about you just want to answer the name being a journalist. It extends beyond that. You just have to be ready to do all you can and go extra to make sure you deliver on your mandate as a journalist. But for democracy cannot survive without journalists, without the press. It's impossible. Because there are agents that want the press not to even be able to say a word. But here lies the dilemma here. I think it was Immanuel Kant that said that duty cannot complete, which means if you have a job to do, you have to do the job, regardless of whatever comes out of it. But as a journalist, you also need to have it on the back of your mind that whatever it is that you're doing as your job, it must impact on the people positively. It doesn't mean that you are, what's it called now? You're trying to censor your job. If whatever report that you're putting out is going to cause more harm than good to the society as a journalist, it's your job as a journalist to find a way to nuance your report in such a way that it only tends toward developmental purposes and not to cause chaos and conflict. So in rounding up, just to be very clear, the role of the journalist in the democracy is quite tedious, it's hard, but above all is to hold the fabric of the sites together at any cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the we spoke clearly to my first question, which would have been, what the ideal role of the media in governance and nation building is, and you've spoken to that. So that helps to set the tone of the conversation. Forgive us, please. We also asked for your opening thoughts at the end before we went into questioning. So let's ask, would you like an opportunity to share your opening thoughts in 3 minutes on the theme, or should we just go ahead with the line of questioning as we started? Let me allow you. We can go ahead. All right. I have it. All right. So the next question, which I think follows up very beautifully from where Mr. Sheriff Poetry stopped, is let me start with a quote. This quote was said by the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. He said, "I would rather have a completely free press with all the data involved in the wrong use of that freedom than a suppressed or regulated press." Now, this leads to my question. In a democratic society like ours, where freedom of speech is the foundation on which the media's power lies, should there be constraints in the way that the media portrays obvious negative narratives that sometimes trigger situations of unrest or bias against the government? I can take it again if need be. I'd love to ask through this one to Mrs. Andrew. One more time, all right. In a democratic society where freedom of speech is the foundation on which the media's power lies, should there be constraints in the way that the media portrays obvious negative narratives that sometimes trigger situations of unrest or bias against the government? So I think simply put, should we portray some negative truths as they are, or should we put it in the bit?
Good morning, everyone. I apologize. One of the unfortunate side effects of the job is occasionally I lose my voice. But because of you guys, I've taken some time off to work on it and keep it so now. So I hope I'm very clear. So to answer your question, there should be no restraints. A free press is a free press. These conversations have come up in a society such as Nigeria's with its sensitivities. There are sensitivities around culture, there are sensitivities around religion, there are sensitivities around ethnicity. We should take those sensitivities into consideration, but we should not look at restrictions. There have been conversations, and I know several attempts by the National Assembly. I think, I don't know if it's come up with this particular Senate, but it came up with the one before and the one before that, in terms of trying to engage social media, civil society organizations, and things that would eventually end up to restrictions on the media as well. So those restrictions should not come as a form of law, as any understanding with the government. We should be very careful of putting out a handshake with the government in which they say, you know, if we bring out this news, this will happen. It gets to a point in Nigeria where we tell ourselves the whole truth. We have issues in this country. And oftentimes, if you open the newspapers, if you look at front pages, it's all doom and gloom. I don't know how you guys, if you see that. A lot of times I struggle to find good news about Nigeria. Front page is doom and gloom, but it's also the reality that the country finds itself at this point. So the media's role is to present, unfortunately, that doom and gloom truthfully. It is our role to be honest and transparent with the state of the country, be it the economic state, the educational state, the security state, the healthcare state. That is our role. Our role is not to make things easy for government. In fact, in some institutions, in some situations, we should make things much more difficult for government. Instead of sitting beside me, I should ask him about his Good Morning Customs campaign. Has that not made things difficult? But to still use that as an example, what have we seen as the consequence of that, as the change in behavior of that? So if we're going to package and try to make things easy for governments, we're not going to get the change that we want. We're not going to get the change that people in the country deserve. We're not going to get the change that the media is also responsible for bringing about. So no, we cannot do restrictions. We can be sensitive, we can consider considerations, but we must do our job, which is true. It is holding power to truth. It is making sure we seek accountability, and is guaranteeing transparency for the Nigerian people.
Thank you very much. If you want to clap, feel free to clap too. So my next question will be to Mr. Magnus. I'm already looking at him. It's a time where we're talking about technology. Digital technology has disrupted everything. So we used to say that journalists were gatekeepers, but now the news is very much decentralized. Like it's almost like every day anything can make news. So I want to ask you this question: what is the role of a journalist as a gatekeeper? Are we truly gatekeepers? That's my first question. Are we still gatekeepers? And what is our role in a time that is as disruptive as this?
Good morning, everybody. I can say without equivocation that we are gatekeepers, but we are agenda setters. That is not disputable at all. And okay, something that you didn't mention, I was a broadcaster. I started many years ago. almost like a Methuselah until here. But I am glad to be here because some of these issues that you just raised, I discussed with Ruben Abati on this program not long ago. I'm also a columnist. I write every Tuesday for the Independent and Disney newspaper. When Ruben Abati was in the Guardian newspaper, as the editorial board chairman, and I was a commissioner in Delta State, some 20 years. He said some things about COVID that were incorrect, but because he was an outsider, he said those things. And I responded to him that if he had the opportunity of getting into government, he will see the difference and he will not be speaking the way that he was speaking. Less than 4 months after, he was appointed. And so he became the spokesman for the president. And he went on to this job very well, so to say. But along the line, he was an outburst against the youths. Said he called them lots of names because of what they were doing on social media. And I challenged him, said he was not so, and as she was mentioning earlier, that the social media shouldn't be that. And it's a sign of the time. And so he didn't say anything. We met each other informally and discussed. In May, I launched my last book, Leading from the Streets, at Alliance Française, and I invited him to be one of the people who give testimony. And he did. He recalled that I questioned why he was lambasting the youths, the youths on social media doing lots of things. And so he asked whether it wasn't right when he complained because the youths are doing worse. I said, so he's not aware of the fact that AI has come in to worsen social media. Social media will just take someone's picture, but now AI can make you say what you didn't say. So it's an evolution. When we keep going on, we cannot stop it. So we just have to find a way around it, and which he agreed with me. So the media is still the gatekeeper. And as I said, we're agenda setters. Furthermore, if you look at what's going on right now, a couple of days ago, there was a debate between the two presidential candidates in the US, the DNC candidate and the RNC candidate. And if you watch closely, you will find out that media stations have their biases. Those who are watching CNN may, be sucked into believing that the DNC candidate won that debate. Those who don't have the opportunity, exactly. So those who don't have the opportunity to watch Fox or WNBC, will probably not agree with you, just like somebody just insisted. So there are media biases. And the best way to be able to identify that, I'm sure will have an idea about this. Ground News. There's a media organization called Ground News. They pull news from over 50,000 sources. And they create a platform where they'll be able to use their algorithms to determine the bias of the media organization. Google it, Ground News instead. They're able to help you decipher ulterior motives of the media organizations that are presenting some information. And they'll be able to help you get a balanced view of what's going on across the world or on the issue. So such organizations come up from time to time to do fact-checking on our behalf. But the fact remains that the media is the pace setter, they are the agenda setters, but they have biases. We cannot deny that. Anybody that thinks that the media say it exactly the way it is without any blemish, it's wrong. But as much as possible, try to be responsible. And the regulatory organizations actually also set some agendas. Because as much as CNN, for instance, want to be very biased in favor of the DNC, they are also being regulated by the industry, which is why you see a smattering of people from the Republican Party come and say one or two things, but they actually don't let them say whatever they want to say fully, because it will change the bias that they already have. So those are nuances, those are small things that really have to have a keen eye to be able to detect, but that's what happens. So the media is the agenda setter, and in these days of AI, we just have to be at alert, because as I said, somebody can be made to say what he didn't say, and it will be as if he said what he didn't say. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add, so we do a program on News Central called The Proof, powered by Africa Check. We're in collaboration with the continent's leading fact-checking organization. So every week we take a piece of fake news that has gone viral from across the continent and we debunk it. From the beginning of the year, because I produced that show and I edit, the majority of the fake news we've been dealing with is AI and manipulating pictures. Recently, there was a picture of I think the new Minister of Defense in Kenya made to look like her and the president were kissing. And then they manipulated videos to make it seem like he was at a public event and referred to her as his girlfriend. These go viral on social media so quickly. We all know the saying that a lie is halfway around the world before the truth has its chance to put its pants on. We're in a very, very delicate situation right now. And what I wanted to add is what I agree that the media is still the gatekeeper. Guys, we're not the only gatekeeper anymore. I don't know how you guys feel about citizen journalism, but I'll put it out here. Citizens cannot be journalists. I don't believe that citizens are journalists. Why? They don't go through the training that journalists go through. They don't understand the ethics of the profession. Yes, they can tell us what's breaking, what's happening, but we have to be careful about each citizen in a position of being the agenda setters, not in a way of not being aware of what they want to talk about, and not being aware of the situations that they want us to deal with. But we also have new gatekeepers who are competing with us. I hope you all know that. News organizations now have to get on the fact checking. If you're a new generation journalist, you need to know how to fact check. There are often times we'll get links, everybody will get them, somebody has died, this has happened. I've instituted checks. I don't want to see anybody going on air with anybody has died until you give me 3 primary sources. It's now more important than ever. And we also need to realize that the Nigerian media has had a credibility issue for a number of years. So this time we're in, with AI, with technology, with this kind of democratic crisis that Nigeria is facing, we are battling with people who don't necessarily 100% trust the Nigerian media any longer. And I think that's a fact we need to realize. We're in a situation where we need to gain our credibility back, gain the trust of the public back, so we can gain the full, the full emblem, the full regalia of being the fourth estate of the realm. So yes, we're still the gatekeepers, but there are other people knocking at that same gates.
Thank you so much for speaking to citizen journalism, because I was going to bring that up, but the time permits, we still go there. Thank you very much, Ms. Magnus, for your response. My next question is going to go to Mr. Sayo, and it's going to piggyback off a point that Honorable Magnus made in his response to Elizabeth's question. This question says, in societies, I'd like to say like ours, and I think it's relevant that we speak to our home situation, where political ideologies create clear dividing lines, and we see media houses either advocate for or oppose a certain ideology. Is this natural and acceptable media practice, or are media houses to be free of any bias, acting as a neutral and unifying voice in society? That's part A. B is this even realistic? Is it possible to be unbiased and to let it show in one's work? I mean, a perfect example, like Mr. Magnus shared, is can be seen in the United States in terms of how their media, broadcasts and reports their own political activities. And we sort of see the same here in Nigeria, where some media houses favor a certain political movement or the other. In fact, media houses are owned by politicians or people with strong political affiliations. So, I feel like it brings, the people back to that point of, can we even trust, our media, supposed gatekeeper? How are we sure that we're getting, legit and unbiased information? So I'd love for you to speak to this as much as you can.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I got the first part. So when it's time for the second, I'll ask again.
No problem.
Before I say anything, Mr. Magnus, you said that some 20 years ago, when he was commissioner, he told Dr. Ruben, this thing you're right to. When you come, if you have the body to come, and 4 months later, you got appointed. Can you please tell me? I want to see things different when I become a billionaire. Because I don't have ambition in public office ambition. But yeah, maybe if you said that to me 4 months from now, should the press support or oppose a particular political ideology? I think the answer is clear. The answer should be no. In the lead up to the 2023 presidential election, people asked me who exactly I was supporting. And even though I had my personal biases, I didn't tell anyone. As the elections drew closer, some people started to say I was obedient. Some people believed without asking that I was obedient. But there have been times that I went on Twitter to say, actually, I'm not obedient. And people of both camps were offended. Because a journalist does not have to, the criterion for being public interest journalism, holding government to account, the criterion is not opposition politicking. It's not even, it's not supposed to be, journalists are not supposed to be partisan. As a journalist, the question was asked earlier, what's the job of a journalist? And we pass the mic around, lots of people will say different things. There's something central to all those answers. It's not the truth. The job of a journalist is to dig the truth and just release it. It's why I have a problem with balance. People say your story is not balanced. I would never feel bad if someone gave my work that comment. What's balance? Someone said 15 people are in this hall, and then I report it. Another person said there are 25 people. And I reported it, and I said, it's balanced. Reported what the two of them said. But neither of them is true. My job is to come in and count the number of people and release the topic. That has nothing to do with balance. It doesn't have to be about the truth. Which then means that as a journalist, if you have no biases, there will be times when you do your job well and the government says yes. Thank you. And there will be more times in a place like Nigeria where government is responsible, government is largely, not all, largely. There are one or two shining lights in government, but government is largely responsible, government is largely corrupt, government in Nigeria largely high-handed. And it is the worst that I've seen under this regime. It's the worst since examples. A journalist in Sokoto did an investigative story exposing a sachet water company that was unregistered, that clearly posed a health risk to people. And the Department of State Services went after the journalist. It was the DSS. It wasn't the police. It was the security service that went after him. And then you report the truth, just come after you. They don't want you to talk. Now, the Nigerian Police Force, National Cybercrime Center, has become the instrument of oppression in this country. And then they don't file charges. Arrested, that FIG reporter, that abducted, not arrested, sorry, because the two concepts are different. Abducted him, the police can arrest, you have the powers to arrest you, they give you access to lawyers. If you pick anyone and you deny the person access to lawyers, family, that's an abduction. It's not that you didn't ask for ransom, it's still an abduction. Now, arrested him for supposedly writing a false story. That was in April, and this is September. I haven't charged him to court. He invited me, grilled me, questioned me, told me to report every 2 weeks. Told other people to report every 2 weeks. and you've not filed charges against anyone. So if you operate in a system like Nigeria, where the government then goes after you, the idea is not even to file charges, not to say what you've done is wrong, it's just to oppress you, to intimidate you, frustrate you. Imagine telling me to come to Abuja every 2 weeks, and my organization is based in Lagos. My reporter has to be the same, so we have to spend like ₦1 million every 2 weeks because we want to see the FCC. So you will never be at that point where the government feel that you do your job well. But as a journalist, I think it's important to know that you shouldn't be, you can have your personal biases. Even those biases should not reflect in your story. Certain stories, I say, no, I'm not the one. If I have a friend in government, I have very few friends, because I know that, you are not supposed to let personal influencing affect. But I will have a friend in government, and I'm not the best qualified to report. Let someone else do it. If you have biases that you can't suppress, let someone else do the job. But a journalist can't be partisan, can't be an APC supporter, APC member, can't be, an obedient, can't be a Labour Party supporter, can't have, because you are not going to have a perfect system. Of all the candidates around last year, tell me just one of them that is perfect. So if you then align with that person's ideology, so what then happens when there is wrong in that government? How do you report it? I hope I answered the first part, but I'm sure I didn't put this up.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
yes. If you don't mind, I just make a small clarification.
Before months.
Yes. No. On balance, if you don't hear both sides of the story, there's no balance. So there has to be balance. If you go to an event involving APC and PDP, for instance, and you hear from the point of view of APC, and you don't talk to the people from PDP, there's no balance. So there's always reason for there to be a balance. If there are more than one party involved, you must always look at the other side of the story. If you report it from one point of view, they have the right to accuse you. But if you take the point of view of the multiple people engaged in that event, there will be balance. There are situations where the other parties are not ready to share their view at that point in time, and you may be compelled to go ahead and send out your broadcast or your report the way it is. What you must observe, that you try to reach the other party and there was no response. So balance is very important.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. My next question will be for Dr. Margaret. She's a lecturer here at Manhattan University. So coming from the academic side of things, you are a lecturer, so you probably have insights for us as journalists to do better journalism, interesting areas that you think that for the time that we are in and to properly do constructive media engagement, what are some of those things that you would say that every journalist needs to add to their knowledge at this time? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Midday. I think we forgot to add during the introduction that I come from the hindsight of the media. I practiced for over decades before joining the academia. I also currently have the privilege of consulting for the development organizations. So I'm still very much in the industry as much as in the academia. Well, coming from these hindsights and listening to what has been said before now, I like personally to see the media as a partner with the government in development. If we are referring to national development in this situation, by certain laws, by theoretical principles, and even what governs us, this is the normal expectations that anybody has, that the media sees itself as a partner with the government in development. But does the government see the media in that light? Most times what happens is that the hand goes over news items and then the media just keeps it out there. There's a difference between you just being a channel, somebody asking you to go see something, and you being part of the process of that thing. Because if you are part of the process, you internalize more, and then you deliver that content with more, it's more convincing when you deliver them, and then the tendency for trust among the audience is even greater. So, but then the realization is fast coming, because We are moving from that era where the media is just seen as a channel to be used. We move from that point, we now see participation, media engagements, the government trying to bring the media closer. I see this more often with aid organizations than with the government itself. We have trainings like those the LBS Sustainability Center organizes. We have roundtables, we have visitations where journalists are being taken to understand the concept of which they are going to be channeled for delivery. And when they do that, the sender is the better for it. And then we move to the third, and then of course there are challenges with these two options I just mentioned, because the government or aid organizations will believe that the media is not communicating their intent because they haven't even saturated them with enough information. But thankfully, we have things like knowledge journalism now, solution journalism, specialized reporters and all of that have organized themselves into bodies, which makes the investment in their knowledge even better, improving upon their reportage, whatever it is that they put out there. We have a third approach, which is the government and aid organizations themselves taking the job of the media practitioners, like them leveraging social media and all of that to put out their own messages the way they intended. We have industries, I give an example of the Bank of Industry, they run their own show. They just buy airtime from the media organization because they want to tell their own story. And then we even have organizations who have gone ahead to own radio stations. You have the military radio and all of that. Why did they do all of this? There's this lack of contentment in what the media has done so far. And I don't blame the media for it. What investment have they made? So in the academia, when we appraise and evaluate communication interventions, we find some of these gaps. We see things like indifference from the media in the way they report it. We see things like inadequate, knowledge on the subject. So if you're not saturated enough, you do not get to. Yes, you see yourself as a partner in development, but you should be taken into the process, internalized, and then put out. When you put that out, it becomes convincing. Trust is built. Look at Nigeria, for instance. Trust is the least thing we can say about the government. Nobody trusts. And if we keep going that way, even when the government is doing the right thing, nobody sees. Because, that mistrust is fundamentally there. So acknowledging the media as a powerful tool, as a partner in development is something that will help, seriously. And then that's on the part of the government and the aid organizations, but how about the media, the journalists themselves? Are we willing to go beyond armchair reportage? Are we willing to make the investment and putting out knowledge? Because information is no longer adequate. Information is not enough. The demographic has actually changed. So knowledge is where we're headed. So we need to rise above just informing people to bringing about knowledge. And why do we need to invest in knowledge? Because we want to change attitudes. And why do we need to change attitudes? Because we need to change behavior or practice. So I think on both sides, more investments need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are speaking very well to that as well. A good combination of your industry experience and you being in academia as well. I'd just like to let us know that after my next question to Mr. John, we'll open the floor to questions from our audience. So Elizabeth and I will move around with the microphone and to let you speak directly to our panelists. Also, we'll be giving you some 3 minutes at the end, our panelists, for your concluding thoughts. So I'd also let you know so you can prepare ahead. Mr. Jonathan, my next question is for you. Having worked with and consulted for a good number of radio and television stations and media outlets, I'd like to ask, our regulations, our regulatory body, have you seen any patterns, in the different outfits you worked with, whereby there's some regulations that serve as maybe some type of obstacle to the media effectively doing their job? This can be a yes or no question. Yes, if you're willing, you can share with us what this is and your thoughts about how to resolve it. If not, are there any obstacles at all that you're privy to, having worked with a couple of major industries, beg your pardon, media outlets, where you see a pattern in which this thing is doing more harm than good to our work as journalists and broadcasters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope that you asked a question that has already been spoken to, so I'll just nicely say how about the answer. But so I think the short answer would be yes, there are obstacles. It will depend on what aspect of the media. A lot of my work has been in broadcast, and broadcast media, you know, is highly regulated, a lot more than the print. And if I will try to extract a few things, I'd say to begin with, the law by which the broadcast media operates on is largely a document called the National Broadcasting Code. And I'll leave that to the academics to x-ray, but as a practicing journalist, I think that document, I hope they let me into MBC from today, but I think that document was designed, of course, from the military era, and it hasn't dropped a lot of the elements that have shaped it to where it is. There are a lot more don'ts, and scarcely you would find the do's. The do's are left to your professional discretion, which is a trap, because your professional discretion is also subject to interpretation. So when you look at that document, it pretty much tries to like force every broadcast channel to sound alike, act alike, and behave in the same manner. As against trying to encourage like diversity that does a lot more work. And I always say to my colleagues that it is important, like what Tolu said about having measures, steps in where we do gatekeeping on the inside, for instance, before things go out, to build more steps, because you see, we have to be solid so that when things go out, already the document is vague and leaves room for you to be boxed in. Whatever you do, you are damned. You don't, you are damned. So that document's already that way. So that's speaking to broadcast. But I think when you also look at in other aspects of journalism, like print, permit me to try to go back to our overriding topic, which is about constructive media engagement and in governance and nation building. You see, each of those words they are pretty solid. When you look at constructive, it has its elements that is born out of, so it's about building, like from the word construct or construction. It's about building, about who is building, why are they building. When you look at engagement, it's also founded on mutual respect, trust, and other elements. In our case, the question that remains always the million-dollar question is, sometimes you ask, who needs who? Does the government need the media, or does the media need the government? I think the crafters of our constitution, in their limited, I use the word limited, their limited wisdom, made it clear in section 39 of the Constitution about the role of the media, even though I always jokingly say it's like a provision that was put without being backed by any other thing. We're just hung out there to dry, and we're exposed. For every report that Sayo has done, I'm sure you haven't gone to court in anyone that has gone to court and told the judge, but see, now I'm in the Constitution, I have no reason to be here. You probably get beaten black and blue before you leave that place. We're exposed there to do that work, but nothing is guaranteeing our safety, our place when the work is done. So the same fate then applies with what obtains for the print as it obtains for broadcast. But essentially, for there to be that engagement, our job, like has been well made clear, is to tell the truth. Sadly, irrespective of whose ox is gold. Someday you'll be happy,
because the truth favors you, someday you won't be. Like Benjamin Franklin said one time when he espoused about, look, if every printed document or every print referring to every report that has to be put out, if it has to go through a check to see if nobody will be offended, in the end, you almost will not likely publish anything. But being constructive in engaging with government doesn't mean you won't say the things that hurt the government. It doesn't mean you won't say, because remember that government and regime are two different things. I think we oftentimes tend to confuse those in government with government. Government is a continuum, it's a fixed thing, it's about the interest of the generality of the nation. Whereas those in government are transient. They are, like we've seen, Party A is there today, Party B is there, even though in Nigeria, when Party B enters, people from Party A morph into Party B, so they almost remain as consistent. Maybe that's why it's made us think the people in government and government are the same thing, because we see them always. But ultimately, I think that engagement has to be about three things. I'll round off with that. Respect, patriotism, and understanding the independence of the media. We are independent. We are actually the fourth estate of the realm, meaning that we partake in the devolution of powers, even though we do not have an office and a budgetary allocation to use to promote that. But it just ideally, and I think that's the call to action that all of us must have, to pursue that thing, to enforce. Unfortunately, I don't know, maybe the Nordic nations, in a lot of Scandinavian countries, we don't hear about them much because they are English speaking, but they set the example of things like freedom of the press. In Norway, for instance, you wouldn't hear about, but they set that example. Nigeria, on the contrary, from the military era till now, the changes have been small. This year that I'm talking to you, a journalist was abducted here in Lagos, and he was released in Abuja. How did he get to Abuja? And he was abducted by a department in the Nigerian military, and he was treated like someone who was in a dog fight with people. Nobody, up to now, no one has been brought to question. And you expect that there should be constructive engagement, born out of respect. I don't know, but it leaves a bit more to be desired. That respect needs to be there. And it's not for us in the media to respect the government and mutually respect the government alone. It has to be vice versa. And our job must be seen to be essential. And it is not favoring you today, it will favor you tomorrow. So you've got to do right on your own part and let us do our job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a small insight to share with this. I think this has to do with the point you raised about the media not being well represented in the constitution. Has to do with those of us who have transited from the media into government doing something about it. There are some of us who were media men who are now senators. There were more back in those days. There are some of us who were in the media who have become government. So it's something that they should actually work on to make sure that there's more detail about how the media should be protected.
Yes.
For instance, there's the Freedom of Information bill. Act, yes, act now. It's been there for over a very long time, but most government organizations don't respect it. You apply and you seek for information. They don't even respond at all. And that's a problem. And in a situation where you don't respond and you have to write your article, you have to go ahead and write your article based probably on rumors. But if they had given you access, you would have been able to have a well-rounded piece. That's one. The doctor spoke about the private organizations trying to manage their information themselves. You cited the example of PAU. PAU was actually, at the point at which they started having programs on NTA, they started with NTA, that was channels. it was Wahid Olatunju who left NTA. He was with me in NTA and joined what became PAU. So he created a program that they were sponsoring. So they were taking out their information directly to the audience, and it was good, and he sustained it. He rose from being a spokesperson to the managing director of that organization twice, which was phenomenal. And we're proud of him, because from journalists can become a leader in the industry. But beyond that, we think that our leaders, so to speak, we're younger than them, who are now in the National Assembly, we should find a way, a structured way of getting across to them to actually, make a defense of the media more robust. But the problem is that, the biggest fear that people in government have is not even the police, not even the DSS, but the media. So that's what the problem is. But how we're going to be able to, buy their confidence so that they'll be able to see that we're partners in progress is a challenge, and what has to be structured. It has to be something that we set out to do through advocacy in a way that they will see the media, as we were saying earlier, as partners in development. If once they do that, that would be, the right thing to do. But it will take time, and if we don't push for it, we're not going to get it. Chiombo spoke about issues relating to, or the MC introduced him as having been somebody who got himself embedded in the prisons to be able to, get information out. That's very, very important. In my days, I went with ECOMOG to Liberia. I was in Liberia for 1 month. General Dogoyaro was the ECOMOG commander. And thankfully, I was 100% protected. Dogoyaro would be dead for me to die because I was with him all the time. But we took the risk to go to the war front. He took us along. We went, we saw one-on-one, we spoke to the people, and were able to come out with information regarding how the people felt, what was going on, and how the solution was going to be found. So some of us need to develop that kind of instinct, determination, to be able to make a difference. One of the dreams I had when I was young was that since I was a broadcaster, I knew how to edit. I don't know if you guys can do that. And apart from being a reporter, I was an editor. I was also a cameraman. So my dream then was that I would be one of those that go to the moon, that be able to get there and do all three before what people could have done by myself and send the information back. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we should make sacrifices as journalists to be extraordinary. That's the only way we can, shine and be able to make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We would like to encourage every one of you to please post on social media, share your thoughts on social media. The hashtag is #PAU Roundtable 2024. You can make use of these hashtags on X, on Instagram, whatever platform it is. We're going to question and answers very soon, but also want to announce that we have free Wi-Fi here, so you can connect to the Wi-Fi. The passwords are LBS 4012 0220. Okay, I'll go again.
Wi-Fi name.
The Wi-Fi name is LBS 4012 022025. The hashtag is VR. The password is VR at LBS24. The W is in uppercase. VR at the symbol at LBS24. Every other thing is in lowercase. It's only the W that is in uppercase. So we'll be going straight to question and answers from here. There's already a question that Mr. Chido Uwakama has asked. And I think he wants to speak to it, but I want to ask our panelists at first. They probably have things to say in this respect. So his question is, what is constructive engagement? And what are the differences between constructive engagement and traditional media criticism? This is for Mr. Chido Wakuma. Anybody wants to take it?
Yes, question, yes. Thank you very much. I'm sure most of us know Mr. Chido. He has been around for a very long time, so those in my generation know him. So I'm very happy that he's here. Constructive media engagement is it's not an easy process, but it can be easy. Some of the people who did this very well are people like Aremo Sheikh, the former governor of the state. Most of us will remember that he was the one who reported where the late Agui was killed. He was always spotted this. And the reason he was able to do this was because he was very friendly with the military people. He was very friendly with them. He was caboting. So when it happened and the information wasn't everywhere, he was informed personally by his personal contact. And he raced to the place in the bush to locate the crime, the heinous thing that had happened, and he was able to report it. So constructive engagement is when you build relationships with people in government and you are able to ferret out some information from them that you give some guarantees. The guarantee is not that you will not report it. The guarantee would be that you'll be fair in reporting it. I'm sure Chirongo will probably know that because I know that people, your position as my friend, younger, I've been publishing, the cable have been publishing my article since they were founded. So I know that, Simon, for instance, has relationship with some people in government where you can get information that's not available to people. So it becomes breaking news. Okay, so you have to build that relationship and you extract confidence from them to be able to do that very well. Somebody else who was doing that was Eric Teniola. He's still around. He ended up in Aso Rock after he was a reporter in Punch over a very long time. He also developed that kind of relationship with people in government that he was sometimes privy to some meetings, nocturnal meetings held by people in government, and he gave some guarantees that certain information would not be leaked, but the proprietary ones, the ones that the people need to hear, he gave up. Also, I believe that some of us here are aware, that once you gain the confidence of certain people in government, they will give you information and tell you and also put a caveat on it that if you're caught, don't vote them. They will deny you. As a matter of fact, some of them have telephone number that is not their usual telephone number, that they can communicate such information to you, whatever, So it helps, but you have to get the confidence of these people for them to be able to give you this special information that you need, that will stand you out, that will make you be a breaking news person. But it's the relationship that you have to develop, and you have to really be able to gain their confidence that you're not going to be irresponsible with such information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So I'll go back to this side.
Sorry, Yankee. Sorry. Let me just add a few things. I want to look at constructive engagement in another way. I want to move away from trying to get a source from government. I want to look at media engagement in a way where, as a journalist, as a broadcast media professional, you want to talk about government activities. And I said this in my opening speech, and you're trying to engage the government in a conversation. How many people have tried before? Like you're trying to no material motive whatsoever. You just want to engage. You heard there is one palliative being shared somewhere, and you're saying, Commissioner, let's talk about this. Just try it. So the question is, who is responsible for constructive media engagement? The media or the government? In a situation where, like, the government sees you as someone who is always critical. A very smart government will even volunteer information to you because they want you to have the right information. They will promote constructive media engagement. First, even though it's mutual, but if the government turns you down, there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to go with what you have. It doesn't mean that you're being cynical. It doesn't mean that you're being biased. It's just what you have. Let's move to the area of, what do they call that thing that's media chat. Before we even get there, let's start from the electioneering period. How many of the candidates then, how many of them, I have been at a public debate before, that a major candidate will be waiting for another major candidate to show up at the debate venue before they step out of this thing. Who organized it? The media. For what? For people to hear them. But they will not show up. Fast forward to media chat. It is the government themselves that will handpick the people that they want to speak with. So again, who is responsible for constructive media engagement? I leave that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. I think Fisayo wants to add something to that.
Thank you. I want to answer your question. She tried to answer, but I disagree with the answer. But it's not the job of a journalist to be engaging with government. If media engagement will happen, it has to be government initiative. The job of the journalist is to expose the truth. It's to hold the government to account. Why are you engaging with someone you're supposed to hold the account? You hold them to account, you give them the opportunity to respond, to defend. It's not journalists looking for engagement with government. Now, the examples today, I like to interpret them as sources building. And every journalist needs it. You want to report breaking news, you have to build sources. It's still that you are just trying to do your job, you're trying to share exclusive news. Yes, you need people in government. But to engage with government, it's so tough. Because they don't want to engage. They don't want to leave their, they want to leave their ass, write what they want. I'll share two examples of me trying to engage with government. One, last year, I released an investigation entitled Arrows of God. I tracked, I was selling baby 19 months. I paid money to buy the baby. Human life, I bought it. Yeah, and then I took the baby to NAPTIP. By law, I should be dealing with them. I practically did their job for them. In my estimation, I shouldn't be the one going after human traffickers. Give them the baby. And I would go every month. I had a representative going there every month to look after the baby, buy things, baby's birthday, bought things, Christmas, bought things. There were times I went, but every month there was someone from me who went. Just one person that they knew. One day we woke up, NAPTIP had taken access to the baby, of us. Just one day. I bought the baby for how much? 2 million naira. It's not like NAPTIP said, okay, we'll recover your money for you. But I didn't want to collaborate with them. They were trying the woman, they needed me as star witness. The first court case had released funds from the organization for a reporter to travel to Anambra just to go and report. What's my business with government trying someone I reported? But I wanted to, work with government. We just woke up. got there, the baby was not there again. And then I protested. I said, none of us is going to show up at that. Continue your child. I'm not going to be in the phone in the hands of God. Then they sent a letter saying to notify you that we have transferred this baby. If you wanted to engage, you would have done that before. Not that we just wake up. Maybe we are spending money on this baby. And they just, in a flash, it was gone. That's me trying to, And then during COVID, in the early days of COVID, and people were going into the isolation world at their band, were coming, and I thought there has to be something fantastic that those people are doing. It can't be magic. I want to go inside there and report from inside the isolation world. And I said, got someone, friend in government, that has known me for a while, and I spoke to them, and they said, no, we are not going to allow this guy in. So because he wrote this thing about us in the past, because he went undercover at Yaba Left in the past. There was the time I did another cover, went to Yaba Left 10 days, and so the patient reported for me. I said, but if I wanted to go undercover, why am I talking to you? Why am I talking to you? You are recruiting nurses, like emergency nurses. When at the start of COVID, I could have decided one. I could have sent someone. It's nothing negative. I just think that people are going in and coming out. We can't always write negative things. And I told them, the best PR we can get is from a journalist that is considered as a government. That's the best PR. But the opposite. The opposite. It was a story that I was supposed to be on Al Jazeera at New York Times. That cutting cameraman. We got to the gates of isolation. They said you cannot enter. They said they don't want you. So how do you engage with government? When the government always wants you to write positive. Then they think we hate them. Then they think we are their enemy. But I just want a better country. Many journalists who write things going, we just want a better country. And the day we see that you are doing some fantastic job, we also want to report it. But then you protest, say, because you know some things in the past. Those things written in the past, were they true or not? So I don't think it's possible in a place like Nigeria. Especially in this administration. That doesn't even want you to cough. That doesn't want you to cough. You now say you want to engage with government. If engagement will happen, it will be the government saying, we want to engage with the people, we want to engage with the government, we want the media to understand certain things, and then we will do that. Thank you.
Working with African Check has also allowed us to understand things. An intentional lack of an intention to withhold evidence is also a government's ploy. When things happen and you are required, you need to confirm how many people died, how many things came in, and government withholds information, it makes it easier for them to come out 3 or 4 days later and start crying fake news. We need to be very careful because oftentimes when we ask for information and we're not given, it's not that the information is not available. Sometimes governments, not just saying this government, are deceptive. They want to create that vacuum, especially with social media, to allow social media to fill the vacuum. In some ways, also discredit the media and then come out and say fake news. We need to keep that in mind.
Thank you very much. Very valid points have been shared. We have a question from a member of our audience, Mr. Justice, is from News Online. It says, how can we foster a sense of shared responsibility and accountability amongst all citizens, regardless of their socio-economic status, to contribute to the sustainable development and growth of our nation? I'd like to ask, let me see, do we have any takers for this question? How can we foster a sense of shared responsibility and accountability among all citizens, regardless of their socio-economic status, to contribute to the sustainable development and growth of our nation? Dr. Margaret, would you like to speak back? Okay, after Mr. Kenneth, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. So just before I answer that question, I think just to add my voice to the media engagement with them, the engagement by the government with the media is an engagement with the populace. They need to be aware of that. So it's not the media that they're even doing it. So to take back to accountability, recently a colleague and I conducted a study which is yet to be published. So we're looking at accountability in our democratic system and how the media plays a role. And from our interviews, we gathered that the private-owned media were more disposed to that level of freedom to go for things that we do, as opposed to the government only. I do not say this to try to make a point that the government cannot, but there are lots of encumbrances that will not allow them to do that. So if we want to achieve accountability, before I even go to the government, a media that is not accountable cannot hold the government accountable. So we need to be, first of all, that mistrust that people hold about the media. You're playing to this person's gallery and all of that, that has to be removed so that the media is objective and is working towards national development. When you are accountable, you can hold the government into account. And then I know that the government will naturally want to fight back and all of that, but I know for journalists who are seated in this room and for those who have paid the price for the democracy that we have, they have actually, they've been dogged, and they've gone through a lot of punishments and all of that to ensure that we have what we have today. We owe it to them to improve upon what exists today. So first off, we need to detach ourselves from whatever that makes us unaccountable as journalists. Then we can be on the right footing to hold the government accountable. While the private media organization is doing that, I think the government can as well try.
They can.
Because your journalist, because your journalist, not because if I look at your remuneration, it does not permit you to even survive in the Nigerian system. You're doing what you're doing out of passion. So how can we advance national accountability as a nation, bringing our contributions as journalists? Do we continue to play to the gallery of those who, the fighters? Do we continue to do that? Then we continue to build mistrust among the populace. And do not forget that we are now not just the only gatekeepers. The other people who are keeping the gates listening. So if we continue to go in that direction, in no time we'll become irrelevant to the populace. Is that what we want? If not, then we need to think on how we can advance accountability by ourselves, then begin to hold the government.
If you don't mind, I'll just respond to the government aspect of this. Journalists that work for government can hold government accountable. That's not the because they hire the people who are in charge. I'm sure you are aware of it. There are meetings, and they set the agenda. They tell the reporter what to do or whatever. Whatever you report, when it comes to the editor, he will edit out what he doesn't want. And if you are fond of doing that, he will bench you, whatever, and stuff like that. So it behoves of the private sector people to drive it. And a lot of that is happening right now. Apart from the journalists, the people I refer to the people of the estates, people in the social red, whatever, are the ones that are doing that right now. If you notice, what led to Watergate and all the other scandals in the US were private people driven. They were not government. There's no way you will expect, look, for instance, when my former colleague, Mr. Shalom Mole, was the DG of NTA, and he was appointed. He finished, he left NTA, he went to serve in Chevron, he came back from Chevron, he knew somebody who knew somebody inside government, and they appointed him DG, and that DG, the DG is appointed by the presidency, and you expect him to ask a reporter to go and roast the permanent secretary. He can't, whatever, his job will be on the line. So you don't do that. But people in the private sector can do that very easily. No us that can be left without paying or whatever, and then John Momo did it with channels, for instance. He knew a lot of people, but he had Channels Television, which was a leading private broadcast institution at that time. And he knew people in the private sector and in government, but each time they pressed on him to try to do something extra for them, he made it very clear that his business had to survive. And if he didn't have the confidence of the viewers, believing that the news coming out of the station was not tainted, he would lose money. In fact, the station will get lost. So it has to be fair. You have to be fair as well. The same thing is happening with Arise Television right now, where Obaimena knows practically everybody, but as much as possible try to ask them to be fair and fair. Same thing applies to AIT. Try to, okay, I'm going to talk to what he said earlier, what you said also about government people. I came back from Abuja last night. I'm a director of AIT. We're doing television. Was the first private sector organization to go into broadcasting. But right now, the new ones, have sort of left them behind because the models, the station after the BBC, and NTA, but the channel has come and the models is style after Sky, and Arise has come to model after Fox. Okay, so there are different angles to this thing. And so, as you were saying earlier, Emeka, the former DG of NBC, is on the board with me. And I have taken him up on a few of the things that you said, that the rules, the NBC code, are so straitjacketed. And they were set up in the days of the military. And they were meant to put the media in the straitjacket. And so there's no wiggle room for them to be able to do some of the things that they need to do. And so he talked about it. He's not there anymore. So, and I've told him that I'm sure he still relates or interacts with the people who are in charge right now. And he agreed with me on some of the points that I raised. And I said he should share it with them so that, over time, we'll be able to do something. People like Abike Dabiri, who was in NTA with us too, have gone into government. She has been a legislator and now she's on the executive side. People like that ought to, see that this kind of amendments that we need to make the media more dynamic should have spoken of, and we'll keep calling them to do so that it will become really, much better for the media to be able to act rightly.
All right, just because of time, please. I know that it's a gathering of people that speak for a living. Can we just do 1 minute for our answer so that we can accommodate more questions from the audience, please?
So I wanted to just chime in something. Again, back to our central topic. Are there benefits to engagement, to constructive engagement? Yes, there are. What are some of the things that we should explore to do? In this case, I agree with Sayo that it is not necessarily in the place of the media to create those engagement channels. However, what is on our part is to be accessible, to project these things. But I think just like they always say, town meets gown for you people. I think there should be like a tripartite sort of arrangement that happens where from engagements like this, at least government still listens to the academia for the most part. They don't listen to us because we are marked like persona non grata for the most part ab initio. But government, and it's surprising because look at the retinue of names that he mentioned about former journalists who are in government. You then wonder why is it that when they are in government, maybe you don't have to answer this now, maybe after we finish, but why is it that changes when they get into government? Because the benefits of engagement will be things like you have the chance to explain better your policies, you have the chance to reach the citizens in every nook and cranny that they are in, you have the chance to show them what you are doing, what you plan to do. So I can't see why that is not even a major part of a government's position and its strategy for media from the beginning. I just want to say there is an opportunity for government to hear us and see that they should explore and exploit these avenues of engagement.
Absolutely, thank you. There's a question for Dr. Margaret. This question is from Ajabet Teslim, a reporter from August 24 News. He says, kindly share with us examples of organizations that buy airtime and say their own stories the way they like. And what negative does this have on the media space?
Thank you. I think I mentioned the Bank of Industry. They are on Channels Television. I don't know what other channel they are on. They produce, in fact, the presenters, the content, everything, the entire team are staff of the Bank of Industry. But then what they just do is to buy the airtime from the media organization to tell their own story themselves. I don't know if it's an answer.
No, and one more is the local government, there's an agency that's in charge of local content in the oil industry. I can't remember the exact name right now. They also buy their space.
So BOI is the one that.
Yes, MCDR, yes.
Comes to mind.
But the question is something about what are the benefits? Yeah, what are the benefits? Yes.
Well, the benefits would be that you have the opportunity to tell your story the way you want to tell it. But then I would really think of what the negative would be, because if a journalist were to tell that story, I think in my opinion, they'll be more objective because they are not the part of the Bank of Industry. So it resonates more with the audience than the Bank of Industry telling its own story. So
If I had, listen, sorry, but if I had to do this, because personally I've always been paying, it's a waste of public funds, in my opinion, for any agency to take its money and be doing programs on television, on radio. Yes, the broadcast stations make money from that. But you see, it's because of how far we've gone that we don't even realize what is ineffective. No, the most part of people who watch that, they don't believe you. And I say this is in the 21st century, you have other avenues to explore, to project from an internal communication that is going out about your organization. It's like saying LBS wants to be doing a show on TV about LBS. It's LBS doing a show about LBS. It is just not something a lot of people will believe. The believability scale is very low compared to a report that has been independently done about LBS to say the LBS is ranked #1 in Africa. It is this, it is that by an independent body. I know it's not a popular opinion, but it's just like how in Nigeria today, Defense has a radio station, Road Safety has radio station, EFCC has radio station, Customs has radio station. But guess what? Ministry of Commission is crying, we don't have funds. NTA is crying, we don't have funds. The money is coming from the same federal government pocket. All those guys need to do is have an active media department that projects what they do. They don't need to own another level of bureaucracy to keep on to the underfunding. It is not a popular opinion today, but it is when government started owning media, there's a historical perspective to it. There was a lack of independent media years ago. This is Nigeria, like thousands of radio and television stations after. We don't need government to own media. Government is owning media and playing in the same space as private proprietors. Thereby using government money to fund their media, but going to also wrestle for commercials with the same private sector. It is an unfair game, and it is not believable. How many people watch NTA this month here? See how our money is being wasted. I always joke to my friends who work in NTA. I say there are 5 of us that watch NTA. 3 died last year. 1 currently cannot hear, so it's not able to, cannot see, so I'm the only one who, and I watch it once a year. It's a waste of our money. It's a truth that is not popular but needs to be told. I think better can be done with money by equipping the information side of government to engage with media, get exclusives on projecting things that are happening rather than being the players.
I have to respond to this. I totally disagree. I will step back. First of all, in the United States of America, there's CBS. No, sir. It's private. It's privately driven, but the funding comes from government.
What CBS you are talking about? No,
CBS. Yes, CBS. Yes, I said CBS.
No, it's CBS.
I said CBS.
That's CBS. But even PBS is not a station. It's a network. It's a network of affiliates.
Yeah. a network of affiliate stations. That's one. A lot of people would not have known about PAU if PAU did not have a broadcast platform on. It started with NTA. That's yes. Two, also broadcasting is not in the way it was in those days where you have to spend money to buy a transmitter and broadcast station. If you have IP, the laptop, you can broadcast. So there are lots of even newspapers have broadcasting platforms right now. You know, so it doesn't cost money. You know, thirdly, has to have a structured way of taking out information. Government cannot leave everything totally to the private sector. That is the realistic thing. It can be fantastic to say government is wasting money. Government is not wasting money. Government has to have a way of taking out its own information. Government has news agency of Nigeria, for instance, now aggregates information from all the media houses or for all the media houses. A warehouse where everybody takes their information. You know, so it's wrong to say that. It's wrong to assume that it is not proper for government to have its own channel. Government is afraid of the private sector. It's a natural thing. Self-interest. You have to protect your self-interest. So if they don't trust the private sector, it's because, as we all know, there are silly things going on in there. So they cannot leave all their flags open. And they have to engage you. And with respect to whether you have to engage with government or government has to engage with you, if you want to be ahead of other people, you develop your own channel and you engage with government. You don't have to wait for government to engage with you if you want to be extraordinary. Because if you wait for government to engage with you, you are equal to everybody. But if you beat your own path and you find your own way, you will be the one breaking stories, breaking news. So you have to develop, it's a natural instinct to be ahead of other people. You know, so.
All right. So if you just so we can save more time, please. Can we just keep questions for one person? So if we have a question, please, if you know you want to take it, just answer it so you can hit the nail on the head. We have one question here, please. Let's listen.
Right. I'm glad that we're not talking about audience who are into journalism. So my question is, how do we tackle the businesses of journalists or media houses who are being used against one another in terms of carrying on their duties? And is there any law of such effects?
Can you give an example?
All right, what I'm going to say is
an example of media house that I use against each other, so that it can be in perspective.
I wouldn't want to have an example.
No, there's no question.
Thank you so much. There'll be time for networking afterwards and debate.
So I think I understand you. Let me, if I'm wrong, please let me know. So I did an investigation on smuggling, exposed smugglers. Other newspapers were publishing that who were persecuting the smuggler. That's an example. You know, other newspapers were writing it that his travels, he published a story that I was the hire killer. Oh yes, it's online. If you Google Fisayo Show for a journalist hire killer, you see the story. Yeah, I'm like, good. It's still a function of the media being a part of the society that the media does not exist in a vacuum, you know. And so we always have people who take decisions purely based on their own interests. What can be done? It's broad. We have to talk about paying the media, we have to talk about standards, we have to talk about ethics. And newspaper owners media owners have to come together to decide. I was quite happy when she said something about the media cannot hold the government to account, the media is not accountable to itself. How does the collecting brown envelope? The brown envelope conversation needs to happen. Nigerian media needs to have a national conference on ethics. National conference on brown envelopes. I said 70%. You know, so this is not part. As a majority of what we consume as news in this country is there. If people knew how those things come about. All those stories you see on TV, in papers, you know, the one that the editor is interested in, the one that was sent to the reporter with an envelope, brown, white, transfer, electronic. So without discussing ethics as a big thing, as an industry thing, you can't stop what you mentioned.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, the next question is from Michael. Sheryl says, what can be done by the NUJ for checks and balances of journalists? Because a journalist attributed the flood caused by a dam in Borno State to climate change with a write-up on social media. That's Mr. Michael's question.
How many people inside here are members of NUJ? Can I see your hands? Members of NUJ. I can actually raise my hand. When I became a member of NUJ, I think 5 years ago, well, about 15 years into my career in media, I think the time we're having a national conference, the NUJ will be a topic of conversation because they're also an issue for us. How has the NUJ innovated and met up with the times? How has the NUJ stepped up to protect journalists? When journalists are arrested, are we seeing the NUJ come out like the NLC? No. Is the NUJ releasing reports? Is the NUJ asking journalists to strike? I'm not saying they necessarily have to, but what is their position? What is their position right now where it seems that Nigeria's civic space is shrinking? What is their position right now that it seems that journalists in Nigeria need to consider their safety on what they write a story? So before we start talking about the NUJ setting limits or working to regulate the industry, or not regulate the industry, they're not regulating, working to help strengthen the industry, we need to talk about the NUJ helping to strengthen itself. Because the NUJ needs to renovate itself. It needs to innovate, it needs to catch up with the times. A lot of young journalists don't know anything about the NUJ. They don't. So there's a relevance issue for the NUJ, there's an innovation issue for the NUJ, and there's a question about how relevant for many journalists the NUJ is, particularly protecting them in this day and age. So we have to answer that first before we can answer his question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adela. So this is quite a very interesting question. This one says, okay, there's no name. Please add your name and your news agency to your question. But this question says, what do you think a journalist should do in a situation whereby a superior uses his power to kill your story, despite the fact that it's true and unbiased, but because this superior is a friend of the government and negotiates for his own interests?
Send it to another newspaper. Send it elsewhere. Let it be published without your name. That's my name. Or leave that paper for another one. I think it's good.
Thank you.
It says it's from it says close to all the panelists, they all spoke about on why journalists should be unbiased in their duties as gatekeepers. I think I would indirectly spoken to this question, but I'm still taking it. It says, however, what do you have to say on the role of media houses that are being owned by politicians who aren't even who don't have any business in journalism but are involved because they are rich? How can journalists or journalism in such an environment function without the influences of the owner?
I will answer to that. It's not all media houses owned by politicians that the politicians exert influence. If you recall, the owner of Guardian newspaper, or the Guardian newspaper, the Hebrews, one of them was a journalist. So to speak, it was the minister, like that. But the Guardian newspaper is more, as much as possible, is very unbiased. As I said earlier, John Moore, my friend who owns channel, I speak more about the broadcast industry, so that's where I come from, that's what the origin is. I know of, I think when you speak of, bias, it's actually mainly from the media houses belonging to the federal government or state governments. The ones from the private sector, it's, maybe one or two, have such biases. Like the leading one, like I said, because it takes guts to be a leading station. If people perceive that Arise TV, for instance, is playing to the gallery of PDP or APC, viewers will reduce. Advertisers, where the money comes from, would not be very keen. So yes, so they are always very sensitive to that, and they want to sustain their stations. So they try as much as possible to be unbiased, even if not everybody believes. For instance, when during the run-up to the 2023 elections, Arise Television, for instance, tried to organize debates, and the current president did not, accept to be engaged by them because they thought they were biased in favor of the PDP. So the current president, did not, attend. So it's neither here or there. Like I just explained, the Sky in the UK, they have their interest. And we're speaking about government not owning TV stations, for instance. BBC is still British government owned. Right? Whatever. Yes. But it's government owned. They are accountable though, but they are government owned. So
British owned, not government owned. British owned, not government.
British and government.
The government is of the day, and the British people. Different.
The government is a continuum, as you said earlier. So government is government of the day of the next day. But BBC is owned by government, and NTA is patterned after the BBC. And that's where we got our independence from. So we patterned it after it. So the point I'm trying to make is that bias, will forever be there. So the people who engage in business, like I mentioned earlier, there's ground news where AI algorithms can be able to give readers or viewers, the different biases by different media organizations, and stuff like that. So it's always there. That risk is always there, but you are left to determine which one you want to belong to. I believe that you as reporters, you also have your principles and your ideology. There are certain television stations will not work for. There are certain newspapers will not work for. As a matter of principle. Right?
There's a question from Ifan Yogojo, iExclusive News Nigeria. It says, on the issue of harassment, how do we encourage investigative journalism with the level of harassment and oppression of journalists in the regime? What measures are set, not government-wide, but as co-reporters to protect fellow journalists who go out of their way to get news?
The only answer that I know to harassment is more journalism. Yes, because the idea behind harassment is to get you stopped. That's the summary. I said it earlier. There is no single case that government ever had against my organization that ended up in court. If it's to press charges and show that you published before, then they'll go all the way. So the idea is to get you stopped. When I was in the NCC, MPF, several times in August, the woman who trained me, at some point, told me, do you know this woman? That's I said, I don't know. Have you met this woman? I've never met her. I said, oh, you're just doing her job. And then she brought out the paper and said, look at this story. 1, another story 2, another story 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all of the same woman. Is this not harassment? So the idea is you write one story about one person, you stop there. Even if there are more, stop. To be able to respond to harassment with more story, you need to have a personal sense of conviction on why you do what you do. You have to know why. It's not about the people. People, I hear it a lot. Oh, in Nigeria, people don't appreciate investigating and people don't know your work. It's not about people. I don't do my work because I want people to appreciate me. So if you get to nobody will remember you. Everyone dies one day, and when I'm dead, let me rest in. Don't even remember me. As an individual, you have to know why. So when you know why, then you can continue. It can never be as bad as military. There are people, lots of journalists who have spent weeks, months in military detention. That Oloriyomi did. this man who wrote the book, I'm reading, was with PM News. The news, Kunle Ajibade, so many people, and they are alive. So you will not die by writing more truthful stories when you get harassed. You will be standing and government will be one after another.
Right, thank you very much. Devices on vibrate or silently, so there's a little slow interruption in the room. My next question, I'm going to throw this to Mr. Sheriff. It's from Jerry A. Jerry says, beyond reporting, how do we, including the citizens, hold government accountable? Goes ahead to say, as a public administration student, we've been told that the civil service is the nest of corruption and, of course, underdevelopment in Nigeria. How do we practice, how do we change the narratives? And Jerry says he's desirous for a change.
Sorry, can we start from the first question?
First question, all right. Beyond reporting, how do we, including the citizens, hold government accountable?
Holding government to account beyond reporting as citizens. I think one of the things that everybody, well, maybe not everybody, and the majority of us will agree about being a Nigerian is our record-shattering, record-breaking docility. Like we don't talk, we don't react. We can concoct all sorts of excuses why we don't. Nobody wants that. They won't go there and back up. We go to the streets. You don't have to go to the streets. Where they have better governance, where they have good governance, they don't have two heads. They held their people to account. There is nothing anybody can tell you or a larger society right now that can change anything until Nigerians themselves own Nigeria and are ready to change things. Because what we see these days is, and I get it, it's because of years of mismanagement, misrule, bad governance, and everybody just retracted back into their whatever, and instead of them be doing it. But we can't get good governance that way. And that is what the politicians want. That's what bad people want. They want you to feel discouraged, demoralized. So the moment they see a media or a public person speak up against, that's the enemy. The others are not saying anything, the only one. And guess what? The people that he's suffering for, or she's sweating for, just stand aloof. And they'll just leave you to your fate. So to answer that question in plain terms, we need to have citizens who take ownership of their country and not leave it to insignificant few of people who, they call them government, but they are not actually, because very few of them have exhibited a sign of being in government. Majority of them are just there by accident, by whatever means, so they don't have an idea what they're here for. And then you assume that they do, and you just say, let them do. Well, we don't know what they're doing now, but you say, let them do it. So we need to own the country. You don't have to wait for anybody to take action before you do. Because our propensity for waiting for a messiah is what got us here. You want somebody to lead before you follow. Everybody needs to take action. That's right. Or that's how. There's a second question, I mean.
Yes, second part is, forgive me. It talks about how, as a public administration student, we've been told that the civil service is the nest of corruption and, of course, on the development in Nigeria. How do we practice changing this narrative?
I don't like talking about civil service. I was once there. So, yes, civil service. In fact, I think that first and foremost is that anybody that wants to be president of this country, you must be able to vouch for the person to run multinational. That way, the president, because it cascades. If the leader is like, whatever happens, happens, I don't care. You guys are buying fuel at 150. Let's raise it to 1.5. You guys will be fine. Leadership starts from the top. The president is a civil servant. He needs to lead by example. The commissioners, the council, the directors, down to the controllers. So civil service is not something that we'll sit here and we'll talk about in 1 hour. It's complex. Trust me, even if you have a good person in the civil service, you know how virus moves. Just give this lesson sometimes. If you can't bear, some of us who can handle it, we just have to leave. Because there's no place for you to change anything. There's no room for you. There is no superhero in the civil service. It's a nest of corruption. In fact, when people say that civil service who are the people there? They are the same Nigerians. Our people that we know. And they're the first that will abuse, this government is bad, but go to their own ministry. You don't pass with something, they will not push that fight for you. I used to have a friend in who always repeat that if we don't have character reformation, we can't get anywhere in Nigeria. And I agree with that. Because civil service is us. We are civil service. If we don't reform our character, if we don't change our attitude, it's just, yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We have a few questions here, some other things.
Please, wait. So I think, the first part of the question, as I said, in the book that I just released, titled Leading from the Street, we have to lead from the street. Leading from the street means as individuals, we begin to make our positions clear. We organize groups in our little spaces and influence what's going to happen. As journalists, as mechanics, as artisans in different spheres, as professionals, they will begin to make a difference. If you insist on certain standards, you're making a difference, then to cascade. We don't have to wait for people in government. That is one way of bringing about this change. We don't have to wait for people in the corridors of power to make decisions. We can make our decisions ourselves. Collectively, we form a force that will be able to influence them. Take the NSAS, for instance. It's not all the time that we have to be militants. Sometimes we have to judge instead of war. You know, we cannot say because, the East Africans in Kenya are doing it. Nigeria became independent without firing a shot. But the Kenyans went through a very rough process of Mau movement and everything and whatever. So there are different ways to find solutions to stuff. I agree there is corruption. As somebody just mentioned right now, it is our people in government that are supposed to be representing the interest of the people, sometimes that help perpetrate corruption. My last article on Tuesday was on how Nigeria can make Dangote refinery, Globalcom, and help its global icons. Just like they did in Korea, they used chaebols to create Samsung, LG, and Daewoo that you're seeing in this country. But people here will, feel, offended or say whatever they want to say, that government invested in that refinery. That's going to solve our problem. Okay? And also, there are people in Nigeria in the echelons of government that try to make things possible for Dangote to become what it is today, to produce the petrol that we're going to start enjoying very soon. Okay, and these are people I refer to as useful idiots, you know, and these are people, it's no respect, I even coin it, that there are people who inadvertently or knowing themselves are being used by others to pursue their end. People may not believe it, but the 4 refineries that we have in this country that are not working today were probably not working because some people connive with local Nigerian people to make sure that those refineries are sabotaged. And the civil servants are the ones that are involved. It's a civil servant or there are civil servants in FAN that made it impossible for MPs and local airline not to park in the prime place. It's our home country. It should be in the home place. If you go to Heathrow, it's British Airways that's in the prime place. But our local people will collect money from those people and make sure that MPs is parked in a corner. All right. The same thing applies to Flowacom. Flowacom failed to get its license the first time, lost $20 million before he came back. And so it's the civil servants that are involved in perpetrating this thing. It's not so much the politicians that we keep identifying. If you look, they're embedded in the system and they are there for 35 years. Politicians come and go in 8 years. So we have to begin to think critically about these things and not just, you know, regurgitate what we do here generally. We have to look deeply into this to be able to find out what the facts really are.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus. This question is from Teresa Moses of That Match News. It says, how do you address challenges of press freedom and intimidation? I think we already answered that. There's a question from Emmanuel Ifeanyi Idom from News Planet International. It says, what's the balance between patriotism, national security, and accurate, fair, truthful reportage? Should a journalist in the name of patriotism cover or give false reports on glaring cases of casualties on the side of security agencies in this era of insurgency?
I wanted to answer that question because I've been in that situation before. In 2015, I did an undercover investigation entitled Forgotten Soldiers, about soldiers who got injured by fighting Boko Haram. And I found myself in one office where is this online? Is this going online?
Yeah.
So I can't answer it. Because I didn't publish it because I thought the public shouldn't know. So why did I come and say it now? Yeah, I didn't publish something in national interest. Because I thought I didn't have the other side. But it was an important story. Without the balance, it would be skewed. So if I didn't publish it there, I can answer if the cameras are off.
Right.
If not,
So we can answer this next one. So it says the role of a journalist is to build public confidence and see the government to account. What should a journalist do, especially an investigative journalist who is caught in the web of his or her community and religious leaders' interference on the investigative job? This is from Abu Bakr to Iman.
So to answer the first one without giving an example, there will be occasions when in national interest you have a story, it's big, or you can't follow it. Not in politicians' interest, in national interest. Because it can cause insecurity, it can cause unrest, and that's not the plan. It's not every story that you get as a journalist that you can.
I totally want to add something.
Yes.
And I think it's important to understand in this kind of situation, there are structures, there's the editor-in-chief, there's going to be a sit down to look at the possible ramifications. So this is not a decision that one journalist is going to sit down and take on their own. This is a station situation or a station decision or a publishing decision, because at the end of the day, national interest, national security and national interest. We've heard them use
as ways in which to suppress stories, but there is also responsibility to bear to the Nigerians who are our audience, and yes, we'll have to make the decision. A lot of times, let's be honest, we can go 5 years without having to make that decision. So don't think that it's something you're going to encounter every day like that. You can go even 6 years and not have to make that decision. But when the situation presents itself, we'll sit down, there will be people in the room, and that decision will be made in the interest of Nigerians.
Thank you very much. So this question is from Timi Dayo Babalola, TM News. It says a practicing investigative journalist is offered an appointment into governance. Should the appointment be accepted? If yes, how will the office and profession be balanced without bias?
See, practicing investigative. See, investigative journalism has become something like being born again. You know, being born again, you go on social media, you see timeline, Jesus addicts, or you see the kind of pictures and videos that Jesus addict, born again. That's what investigative journalism is. Let me say I'm an investigative journalist. I don't think an investigative journalist is looking to work in government unless there is a clear path to show that the change I'm trying to achieve with my pen, I can do it faster in that position. An investigative journalist will not take a spokesman. I don't believe it. What do you do as a spokesman? You just talk. But a journalist can take the job of a spokesman. There's nothing for an investigative journalist. You spend the bulk of your life trying to reveal things that people don't want to see and looking over your shoulder. That's one skill that Nigerians don't talk about. Their writing ability, knows for news. That a journalist investigator, you're also looking over your shoulder. You are not the kind of person who wants to be in the government to speak. Yes, you will do it if you see that this exact appointment you are being offered will let you make a faster change than you can in the pen. I mean, anyone here should be shocked if tomorrow I got an appointment in. You have criticized this government so much, said it also, and I'm working for them. People should have values, and the values that come with investigative reporting. They're not such that you easily see a political appointment as a better deal. Now, it's not to say those jobs are not important. But if you are investigating, especially doing investigations, to have staying power as an investigative journalist, the things that drive you are beyond money, power, influence. So those things are not enough to make it has to be clear that it will help you to make change. If not, 9 out of 10 times you should turn down that job.
Sorry. Please, do we know any Nigerian government that has never stayed anyone's ways? No. And if you say you're an investigative journalist in Nigeria, the moment you even begin contemplating that, just be aware that your rights will be stayed. Even sometimes you no work with your own hands, but additionally, you will eventually leave that position. And you might want to pick up, quote unquote, the toga of investigative journalist again. It's likely going to be damage and responsibility because you will carry the weight, you will carry the responsibility, you will carry the burden, the failures, and everything of the government that you elect, and it will make it very difficult for people to take what you want to put out after that as the truth. It may even call into question previous investigations you've done. It may not be worth it. It's a personal decision, but really, really considering the ramifications in the long run. Calls into work your previous investigations and will always taint what you want to do in the future. Your rights will be stayed.
Thank you so much. I think the next two questions, one from me, one from Elizabeth, and then we'll allow this speaker concluding thoughts. We still have some cocktails afterwards, so there's still time to interact. This next question says, looking at the recent developments in the presidential media and comms team, what should be addressed quickly to improve engagement and communication of policies in the country?
Actually, I didn't. In fact, I'm a moderating factor here because of my experience at age. I've gone through both sides. I have composite experience. I was a journalist, and I have been in government, and right now I'm a public policy analyst. So I've seen things from both sides. So people, are caught in different thoughts. right? There are people who are radicals, right? There are people who are moderates, right? The radicals are the ones who become investigative journalists. They don't want to change their way, they want change in possible manners, and what happens falls with God. Their object in life or mission is not to get rich. So why you're saying you would have liked if I predicted that you give you I was thinking that as an investigative journalist, you don't want to be a billionaire, you don't want to be a billionaire in truth, not in money. Okay. 1 million. So it's like some people are unionists, like people who were unionists and they became senators and governors and stuff like that. But there are some people who are moderates, like a few of my friends have become spokespeople for president, as I said, Dr. Ruben Abati, and before him, of course, Shegun Deni. So these were editors, seasoned editors who went through the whole process after. You may not say they are investigative journalists, but I just told you they are not radicals. So being appointed into government is a duty. You are a Nigerian. You have the duty, and if you're patriotic, to decide to work for government. Because in your little space, like I said, you can lead from the streets, you can lead from government. All right. So there are people who have learned from the streets. And we gave them awards during our book launch, people leading from the street that have made difference in the lives of Nigerians without being in government. So organizations like that are there. So to choose to transit from being a journalist to government spokesman is something that you choose to do. Shegun Adeniyi came out, is the editorial chairman of this day newspaper today. Ruben Abati did and came out, is a Arise TV anchor and economist. Tomorrow, a very good one. I believe that these two individuals I just mentioned, their opinion pieces are balanced. They're very well balanced, even if they've been in government. The good thing about it is that they have seen the other side of government. So when they are interpreting things, they make them very clear for people to understand, because they've seen both sides. They have opposite knowledge, of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, it depends on your mindset. If you are given any job in government and you feel that you are a patriot and you want to contribute your bit, go ahead and take the job. The people who become ministers, who become commissioners, who become governors or president are human beings like you. They are Nigerians like you, and they believe that they are contributing their quota. So you also deserve to contribute your quota to governance in Nigeria. But when you go in there, you have your principles and your beliefs, and there are certain things they will not ask you to do. And if they ask you to do, you also have the right to exit very nicely. I know that there's I actually don't think there's so much money for people who work in government. I mean, there are people who work in the private sector that also make a lot of money. Look, when Shola Omole left, for instance, from NTA to be the spokesperson for Chevron, he made more money from Chevron than he made in government. And I believe he also made more money in Chevron from when he was DG of NTA. So let's be very practical about this and think critically. That's what I do. I do critical thinking and look at things beyond the surface. So you can be not in government and you are okay. Please just give me some time. I was in government. I think I am doing better than I was. I own a mechanic workshop. You people may not believe it. Because I was in government does not mean that I relied on government. I don't do NNPC contracts. But I know the people there. If you Google it, you will find it. I own a mechanic workshop. I was in partnership with Cars 45. I own Fixing 45 with them. I introduced it. I have Inspire Auto Services tomorrow. We buy and sell cars. We sell spare parts. We're just about to set up the only spare parts dedicated mall in Nigeria. So you can't be able to do these things without really being in government, without getting involved in government. You know, so by Jove, if you have any offer to work for government, do so, but do it with your conscience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think one thing that Mr. Magnus has said, which is very important, is okay.
Yeah, but
Sorry, I wanted to say something.
I think the answer, I was just going to add a layer to what he said, that you can make, there's no money in government. Legitimate money. I think legitimate is the word I use. Illegitimate money, there's no one that it's what that, you know, this idea that people have about blood money, I don't believe it happens. Kind of legitimate money available in government. Astounding. Astounding. Just be a customs officer in this country. Corrupt one. Oh, yes. Yes.
Amen.
When I did the customs investigation that she was referencing at the start, people were talking about me in a master's class in the UK. 5 of them, 3 of them were wives of customs officers. One of them traveled from weekend London to Lagos every weekend. It's just okay. She has no job. Her husband's only job is customs officer. How can you get that kind of money in the private sector? But in customs, everything that enters the country, you have to settle. Settle. That's why a few weeks ago, the controller of customs, controller general, right, said you need to excuse smuggling, and I just put Twitter and I just laugh. It was the customs handle, putting a picture of him, and I just laugh. There's no smuggling in this country without Nigerian customs service. So what to stop smuggling? You look into the customs. See, when you hear that somebody got shot, somebody got arrested, customs intercepted, killing, those are people that did not send to. People that are not they declared an emergency on unnamed force some days ago. I said because of the smuggling of arms and ammunition. Do you think that any arms can even land on Nigerian soil without internal pollution? It's not possible. So let's be clear, and that's not even full-fledged government position. That's not a government agency. What the state government, has been going about, demolishing places, flooding. There was a Mandela estate, and the houses were built on unapproved land. Excuse me, there is an agency in this state. Without which you cannot build anything. Why they approve? Anyone here should submit a building approval plan without breathing pumps and see how long it will take you. Try it. Try it. That's not the building agency. Kind of money they will ask for. And that's illegitimate money. There's no other place to have it than the government. Now, if you want to be legit, yes, join Chevron, you make more money than the government. But just by sitting back, look at how big the Nigerian currency is against the dollar. Go to banks, don't have dollar. When you have BDC guys, you always have it. Who are the owners of BDCs in this country?
Yes, how they getting it?
And just like now, GP just get it from official sources, and then you just convert to black market, and you are instantly rich. Instantly, without lifting a finger. In this country, the kind of money available in government agencies, illegitimate money, there's no other place to make it. And if you are investigating, not if you are a journalist, I have maximum respect for the kind of names you mentioned. He said you were seasoned editors. I completely accept fantastic writers. You pick a woman about the article and you drop it. I would think that something is wrong with you. You have to read it to the very last sentence.
Yes.
Fantastic writers, fantastic journalists, amazing editors. But investigative journalists, you know all these things. You know them. Then someone offers you a government. You look at it with all that I know. This is what I want to do. It's really hard to find an investigative journalist. It gets so easily taken. You were never an investigative. You were just using investigative as a platform to launch yourself.
Wow. I think our work as journalists is a very selfless one, because when Mr. Magnus was talking about billionaire in truth, and I thought to myself, if I go to the supermarket and they say, how much is this thing, will I say that I have truth naira to pay with? Like, of course you need money. So it's quite a very, very, very selfless profession. So we'll take one. There's a question here from the media that wanted to ask the question. Yes, I'll take that one.
Well, technically, I think that in principle, I am currently graduate with my degree of student journalism. So my question is, someone who's new now and they're just into the whole journalism business, when you talk about harassment in a particular light, I'm trying to look at the future of journalism. We have a lot of us who will probably be afraid of a lot of things. Now, can we say that in the future, we will have journalists such as yourselves in the future? Because we can say that, oh, if you're harassed, you can keep, doing what you're doing so that you're not, you don't give in to what they actually want. But can we say that for the ones that are upcoming, those ones that are scared, those ones that are afraid, those ones that have the ability but cannot do a lot of things just because they're afraid? So I would say that there was a time in school when I wrote an article of the school system, and then it was shut down because they said it puts the school in a bad light. So, yeah, that didn't make me want to stop. That only made me angrier to go even further. But the question is, tomorrow will we have journalists or people with the same mindset like myself? Or will we just settle to be dishing out news stories or whatever that are influenced? So we have more of genuine journalists in the future, such as yourself when you're not here. Thank you.
Nice to speak to that. So the reason I'm laughing is I worked with both of them. I don't think I made it my personal decision since I've been a journalist, because it was one woman who started working, she put me over. And I think it is the responsibility of senior journalists, be them senior journalists like Bisani, senior journalists like the Americans here, like myself, like JJ, like Dr. Margaret, like Sherry, to mentor the next generation. It was one of the things I put down. It was one of the things. It was one of the things I put down as part of my closing, because I think that in Nigeria, there's a lack of that mentorship for younger journalists. And I try as much as possible. And I try, how many people can say this? There's only microphone for them. But I try as much as possible to mentor, and I think it's very, very important for the next generation. We don't want you guys to come out of school with just a certificate and a degree. Journalism is beyond that. And she was saying this about it being like, because I remember time there's so many messages that call me and I will respond, absolutely. As I've been sitting here, I'm dealing with an exclusive we have. I'm dealing with the exclusive computer of yesterday. I'm dealing with 2 new shows for tomorrow. The work does it so. Whether it's my work or the type of work that Isaiah does, or the type of work that Dr. Margaret does. JJ is running a new radio station. I can't even imagine the kind of headache he has. Sheriff is being programmed me at the first talk sports and news station in Nigeria. I used to work in Nigeria for, I was pioneer staff. My career has interestingly been built on launching new types of content, new types of stations in Nigeria. And everywhere I've gone, it is to bring up the next generation. I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't mentor in their own way. So aside from getting that degree, please look for mentors. Apply for internships. There is space. We need to make sure that as we go from generation to generation, what doesn't change is the value and ethics of what it means to be a journalist. It's going to be passed down from Mr. Magnus' generation to our own. We're the last generation that didn't really have social media because we really started our careers. But now we're in a generation with you guys that social media is making up the bulk of your careers. So there has to be a transference of the values and the ethics that make journalism what it is here in Nigeria. For the rest of that, it's mentorship. Look for a mentor because you will be tested. Journalism can cause you your family. it can cause you your marriage. It's, this thing comes, it takes over you, and before you know it, you're spending 9, 10, 12 hours. We were together at N24, Nigeria's first 24-hour news station. That's to tell you how long we've been doing this. I've slept on the floor in newsrooms over time. Elections, breaking news. The N24 did the first non-government debate then with Jonathan, I think, someone, I can't remember who else. There are sacrifices you will make in this place, but you need mentors so that you don't go the wrong way. Money will come, the offering of money will come, you around and will work, your jobs. You have to decide, are you doing this because you're being patriotic and you want to step out of Nigeria? I do this to my daughter, she's 9. I don't want her to grow up in the Nigeria that I grew up in. I'm going to have a better Nigeria. But I don't want her to grow up in Nigeria that I've been seeing for the past 20-something years or so. So I do it for her. So you have to find your passion in this industry. Not all of us are going to be as selfless and courageous as inside. Or sometimes when we talk, I'm like, where are you? You can't tell me. There are times you won't tell me where he is. If I'm talking to myself, okay, we need you. Say, I can't tell you where I am. He's moving around again. We talked about the reporter in Sokoto. I remember there's a guy that I can't remember. I know him through CGID, Center for Innovation and Journalism Development. The guy cannot stay in one place. He's constantly moving every time he drops a story from the North Central and Northeast because he's being hunted in Nigeria for telling the truth. So first, be sure you want to do this. When you're sure you want to do this, know which direction you want to take. And then when you know the direction, find a mentor in that line that will help mentor you in what you want to do. And be prepared. And as much as I say that, I also say this. When we join this, we put not all of us will put our lives physically on the line, on the field, but our mental states is a very big issue as well. Many of us are stressed. Have you checked your blood pressure lately? Let me tell you, I went to the hospital, probably being sick. My blood pressure was 156/105. They were telling me that I said, excuse me, I'm working. I was still working while they were testing my blood pressure. So guys, as much as we want to do this, and I hope you see this as well, we need to learn when to rest. We need to learn when to relax. Because we cannot continue to give the best of ourselves if we're making ourselves sick. So please, be sure you want to do this. Know which side of which you want to do. Look for a mentor and be ready to put your passion and yourself into all of this. And yes, we'll continue to have new generations of journalists that continue to do the work that we've been doing.
Thank you very much. I just want to add that honestly, everything that is true. I am evidence of mentorship in the industry as early as 17. I started work with Nigeria FM, and Mrs. Adira was the one who gave me one of my opportunities that lets me have the whole show now 7 years ago. And you know, I have a lot of great mentors to thank for that. So a lot of them, so Jonathan is good friends with one of them, but he's here. We want to encourage you to please share your thoughts, pictures, videos, excerpts on social media. Please use the hashtag PAU Media Roundtable 2024. Hashtag PAU Media Roundtable 2024. Please use that hashtag. And please kindly follow and tag us on all social media platforms at PAU_Nigeria. At PAU_Nigeria. Hashtag PAU Media Roundtable 2024. Kindly follow, tag, and do the needful things. At this point, we'll make way for closing remarks from our speakers and analysts. We'll give you 3 minutes each, please, so that we can still have some time to interact afterwards outside. Maybe we can start from Mr. Sheriff Poetry and work our way all the way down this road.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been quite enlightening. I've learned a lot myself listening to colleagues here. Let me close by saying that, and I want to address the audience. I know that there are senior colleagues in the audience as well, but for those who are up and coming journalists, broadcast journalists, new media journalists, you must know the foundation of what you want to get into, what you need to arm yourself, the resolve that you need to arm yourself with, which is your personal conviction that this is what you want to do. You see, let me be very honest with you, there's no money. Media people don't have money.
Thank you.
But you can have the money if you don't have that conviction that you need to be a thoroughbred media professional. Which means that if you're ready not to compromise, if you're ready for sacrifices, if you're ready for whatever comes your way, you will not lose track of what you set out to achieve from the beginning. That moment you decide, that moment you took that decision that you would like to be a journalist. It's a very difficult job. It is not easy. So you have to be very intentional because you will not have an off-peak moment. Your day from 12 midnight to 11:59 midnight of the next day. So let me not scare you. What I'm trying to say is that you will have to be ready for the journey. It's an everlasting journey. What makes it worse is, oh no, I'm scaring you again. The interesting part of it is that you don't retire from it. It's not something that you don't say, I'm a retired journalist. It's not really true. It's not going to happen. Then finally, second thing to understand is that it's a selfless profession. You have to be selfless. You have to put public interest first. You have to put the people first. You have to put the country first. As long as you can do this, trust me, we'll have a better country. And to add to what Tolu said earlier, is that, look, good journalists cannot go. It cannot end. They cannot be out of existence. It's not possible. Because the thing is, when we were coming on, we had people like King James, we had people like other people as well, who mentored us, who took us through the entire thing. I was lucky because I started from the civil service, and if you go through the civil service very well, they know that's the thing that you get to know the ethics, and in fact, they used to think that we're very rigid. That's why you know all of those things. But I found out lately that transfer of knowledge is no more there, which is unfortunate. But the transfer of knowledge is still continuing because in the private sector right now, especially in the media private sector, you have lots of young people. If you come to my station, you will find them everywhere. Because it's an intentional policy of my organization to make sure that there is constant transfer of knowledge to upcoming broadcast journalists. It's not going to go away. So please make yourselves available to professionals. You don't have to be an investigation journalist. No offense they take too much risk. You can decide to be a solution challenge, you can decide to be a journalist, you can decide to be whatever subsector of the sector of the field that you want to belong to. It's okay. There are many. See, we have job to do. Without us, this country will crumble, will crash. So just look around, look for spaces that are open, look for your interest, because interest is very important. Then key into it, look for a mentor, and then start your journey. Otherwise, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to close by reflecting on my own personal journey in the industry. My last contact with the media, where I worked on the desk, I had to edit stories that reporters wanted. We all can remember the event years back when an aircraft landed in Kano carrying ammunition. Can we all remember that story? My organization stopped at reporting that the Red Cross had claimed that they were responsible. You and I know that the Red Cross was not looking in nature. So I would like to take that story further. But others claim that it stops right there. And that for me made reporting very unattractive because I would like to explore. Now, this is one among several encumbrances that we face as journalists in Nigeria. Be that as it may, studies have shown that in the whole of West Africa, the media in Nigeria is fixed. But then we can do better. Now, going back to media engagement, which is the focus for our gathering here today, I would like to, I don't think that government officials are currently in this room, but I think they should leverage the approach to media engagement that the non-governmental organizations are using. It is actually an approach to advocacy. And where there is advocacy, there is intent. And what the non-governmental organizations do, they leverage stakeholders. They use the stakeholders, they use the media, and then they use the academia. Because what we do is like we're dancing, but we never can say how well we're dancing. And that's where the academia comes in to try to evaluate what it is we're doing so that we can improve. So on their part, they need to approach media advocacy in that manner. Then on the part of the journalists, our audiences are becoming more sophisticated. So interest is to move away from information to knowledge if the intent of media engagement is to be achieved. So are we ready to do that? Are we ready to move away from information to education? It requires a lot of investment. So we should challenge ourselves personally as we leave this room today. We have decided to be here. This is the calling, this is the vocation, because the pay does not cut it. So if we have to be here, let's dig in all in and do the work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I think that was like the last question that happened. It gives me hope that journalism is in good hands. Sometimes there's always a tendency to just worry that will this continue? Will this keep up with its tradition? But hearing your question, I think it speaks to the fact that yes, if there starts your own life with all of the pushback you're getting, I'm afraid the bad news is it continues for the most part. But there are great things. It's an excellent profession to be in many ways. I've never wanted to be any other thing than a journalist, ever since I was as young as I can remember. And I'm glad because I find the fulfillment in it. It feels fulfilling to continue in a tradition that is well over 200 years and counting. It will always be challenging, but it will always be rewarding as well. And most importantly, because our ultimate employers are the people. Yes, we work for a platform, for a medium, but our ultimate service is to the people. And hence why I think that is always the goal. And that's why also we probably will never meet in the same place and run the same line with government. Because government, over the years, by virtue of the fact that humans run governments and humans manifest the traits and tendencies of human beings, of not to be trusted sometimes, of not to hold trust in good stead. All of this will always happen, but I think we must know that this is our time, and for every time there's a people. We are the people for this time. We will do our bit. We should just do it to the utmost of our ability and make sure that tomorrow, when those who come way after us look, they will find inspiration and motivation to carry on doing things that make the society better every time. Democracy thrives on the pedestal of good and active journalism, and that we must continue. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to build on what the academician has said. As you all know, the elder in this place, as I say, I have seen both sides of the divide. And I know that the whole thing is about journalism, but there's also public communication aspect of it that has not been talked about. And I know that it's not all of you, there were 100 of you here that are going to be journalists. continuously. Some of you are going to go into public communications. So you're going to be spokespeople for government organizations and the private sector organizations. And building on what the doctor has said, disseminating information can come in different forms. I'm taking it from the public communication aspect of it, for instance. Some of you will notice that 5 years ago, let's take an institution like Dangote, for instance. They have very bad reputation. Their trucks were breaking down all over the country, and they were involved in accidents here and there, and people were complaining about Dangote. People today, people are speaking glowingly about Dangote. What has happened? Dangote just rolled out 1 million bags of rice to people across the country. And people are now talking about Dangote in glowing terms. I'm speaking about organizations engaging with the public. If Dangote Foundation did not have advertising platform or did not buy time on Arise TV and Channels TV to broadcast what they are doing across the country, people would not know as much as what they do today about what Dangote is doing. So sometimes it's very important that you put your information on specific channels where you manage your information, because the law in communication, the law in public communications is that you take out your information by yourself, you shape it by yourself, so that the public will understand what you're saying and to leave it to the journalists to shape for you. So if you take out those channels specifically and you send your information down, the people, even if you're doing it from your organization, there's nobody that's in doubt about what Dangote is doing with rice and how the people are responding to it. Government probably gave out more than 1 billion bags of rice, but what the feedback that they got? Negativity, because people died while they were scrambling to get those bags of rice. But Dangote, using Dangote Foundation, was able to pass this right down to the people using the stakeholders, churches, mosques, and different organizations. So the rights are doing the various people, and they are speaking glowingly about Dangote. So that's the public communication aspect of it that was done in this arrangement that I want people to understand. I don't think it's everybody here that wants to remain journalists permanently. So you should know, that when you package your information yourself and take it out, you get better results than when you allow journalists to shape it. It's there, it's generally known, and that is what people do, and there's efficacious results, as I've just said. It will demonstrable, it's on TV, and everybody is safe. We have been in the public sector in government. Before I joined government, actually, I was in Continental Trust Bank. That's way back in 2000. I was the special assistant to the managing director and head of public affairs. Before I left, I had packaged a program where I was engaging with media houses to take out information about the bank, and it was called a corporate social responsibility thing, which meant that the bank was there, but the bank was also serving the interests of the people. I was impressed when, how many years after, during COVID, banks and corporate organizations in Nigeria came together and did what they called COVID, where they put money together and helped people who were indigent and suffering from COVID infection, and it gave them good corporate image. Now, that is very important, because that's what Dangote is doing right now, corporate social responsibility. And when that happens, you look for a cause and you fight that cause. It's called cost-related marketing. The lady of the university will know that. So cost-related marketing means that you pick a cause and you begin to push it on behalf of the people. I wrote recently that part of the reasons why government has come out with a program, the CBN and the Ministry of Finance came out with a law asking banks to pay profits that they are making, excess profit they are making, for it to revert back to government through a tax measure that is just introduced. And I wrote that the reason that happened was that the banks were making excessive profits because of the EU exchange rate, but they were not throwing it back or sharing it with society, and that caused society to make that kind of decision that they made. That if they have, for instance, insisted that they will give up charging bank customers for alert, for instance, if money is paid into your account, they charge you. If you pay money to someone's account, they charge you. If they have given up that kind of measure, they will enjoy the goodwill of the public, of people who use banking services. And there might have been advocacy for them against government charging them excess profit. So I'm speaking to people who are going to get involved in public communication, not just in journalism. So these are the kind of things that I think you should learn more about and be able to apply.
I'll just say a very big thank you to everybody that's been here. I'll say a very big thank you to everybody who has been here and has joined us Monday. I know it's not easy to take out time out of your day, but as journalists practicing or those who are going into the profession, we all know that iron sharpens iron. You need to put yourself in places like this where we will identify and discuss the challenges and find solutions. So I just want to say very quickly, Nigeria is in a difficult situation and will not be in a difficult situation for a long time. And if you're a practicing journalist, you're a journalist who is a Nigerian who's facing high inflation, food inflation, who's feeling your fuel, you are feeling what the Nigerian is feeling. You are reporting what the Nigerian is feeling. We are all in this together, but it requires us to rise above and to do our job with diligence and dedication. We know the responsibility we bear. We can influence things, we can shape perceptions, we can change narratives, and that's a responsibility that many people do not always carry. But it's a responsibility we must carry with grace, with diligence, and of course with being patriotic and of course by balance. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier. Please rest, guys. This job is not for the faint of hearts. It's not for children. Find outlets that you require. I remember what I was saying, what Sheriff was doing. There are days I come off the video and we talk to anybody for 4 hours. Because by the time you take on everything that Nigerians are agonizing about, they're complaining about, I felt like my head was going to explode. I felt like I was Lagos on paid therapist. And I too needed a therapist at that point. So please rest, relax. You cannot do your job if you yourself are not at an optimal level. And just to wrap things up, somebody talks about demographics are changing and we move from information to knowledge. We need to recognize that we're no longer the middleman and it's no longer a one-way street from us to the public. The public is giving us as much information, as much feedback as they've ever given the media anytime in the world. So we need to take that on and make sure we're delivering for the public as we want to. And whether through time or any circumstance, our values and ethics as journalists should not change. We should continue to hold near and dear the things that make us the broadcasting of the realm, a constitutionally recognized entity in Nigeria. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me time. Thank you very much.
Just before we wrap up, we're going to take a closing address from the Chief Marketing Officer here at Lagos Business School, Mrs. Nsima Ogedi Alakwe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very good to stand. I'll just stand here. So it's not a closing address because I know we've had a very long day. You agree with me? Very long day. But who agrees this has been useful? Did you find this engagement useful? I'm sure. Okay, so how do I say it in assembly? Those that believe this was useful, say aye. Those I believe this was useful. Say aye. Happy. So thank you. Round of applause to our panelists. Closing remark. Thank you, remark. First and foremost, appreciation to everyone that honored our invitation. We had over 300, 400 registrations thereabout, and in present here physically about 150 of you came. Thank you. And our location is not particularly central. So for you to live everywhere that you stay and work and come here is a commitment that you want to contribute towards nation building. You didn't just come here because we're going to give it a park. It's because you want your voice to be heard. You also want to learn from other players in the industry, and we appreciate it. So at Pan Atlantic University, Lagos Business School, silver or gold, we don't have it in the format that you're looking for it, but we have it in providing platforms like this, where we share knowledge, learning, network, best practices. Because that is how you can contribute in a way that is not very tangible, cannot diminish. Please, can we just hold on with the pictures? Yes. So that's the way we contribute, give you something that is timeless. So thank you for the discussion, thank you for the insights, and appreciation to all the corporates that are here present, all the senior editors and editors, the journalists, the reporters, across the rank in media. We have you represented, we appreciate you. We thank our students from PAU, SMC, those that have graduated, those that are still serving, those that came with their parents. This is a show of passion. And a lot of things have been said, and they talked about your why. If your why is not strong enough, you can't go through this journey that has been described. And I like the way she put it, she's doing this for her daughter. I'm doing this for my children, and for their children yet unborn. So many people will japa, but we cannot all japa. It's not possible. There's no one nation, not one continent that can take all of Nigerians. So we still need to do this. So all of our media partners, organizing committee, thank you. And I want to ask, this is the second series. Who wants to have another one next year? Do say aye. Should this be once a year or more than once a year?
Once a year.
Once a year. Twice a year. Quarterly. Okay, so the best way to tell us how you want this to happen is this feedback form. Okay. Yes, so just bring out your phone, scan that code, they'll send it to you. But if you scan it now, it just stays on your phone, and you can do that. It takes like 5 minutes to give us feedback. What worked, what should we do differently? And one of the things that we are thinking about next year is to incorporate some kind of training. That'd be good. Complete some kind of training that if you complete the training module successfully, you can get a certificate. So now give us the feedback. What areas you want the training to be on, because your needs are all different. Okay, so as we finish with the network, with the feedback, we're going to have group photographs at the entrance of the building, everybody, and then we'll have cocktail. So please use the opportunity of the cocktail to have further conversations with our panelists, with yourselves. And we'll see you again next year. Then finally, please tell your story. Hello, if you believe it was useful, why was it useful? Share your experience. Post it on your platform. Use your channel to just encourage and drive this message of constructive engagement. So thank you for your time. We are looking forward to your stories. If you're putting them on social media, please tag PAU. Tag LBS because we posted this today. And many of you don't know the many schools of PAU. Please look at your bag. Our schools and our centers are there. We are just one big family. All right. So thank you so much for coming. And let's see outside for pictures, and then we'll connect at the Soya for cocktail. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh my God.